Good afternoon and good evening to the rest of you. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. I'm your host, Q, coming to you yet again from my mother's basement, and I'm joined by my co-host, P. How goes it, P?
Amazing, as always. Super excited for the conversation today. We are going to be talking to your Q, CK, and George.
Brother, I honestly kind of think you're a little racist for that, but that's just me.
Anyway, point is, super excited for this conversation. Yesterday, we came out strong, announced Bitcoin Amsterdam, and Q and I wanted to pull two of the experts on that topic into this conversation to get some questions answered, tell us what it's going to be like, and go from there. George, CK, can you introduce yourselves to the people? Tell them who you are and why they should pay attention to you.
Definitely. I'll jump in first here. Good to see you guys again. Thanks for having us on. My name is George. I'm a director of marketing for BTC Inc. We're excited about Bitcoin Amsterdam, which we just announced yesterday, as P mentioned, happening in about 105 days. It's October in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, one of my favorite cities. I'm excited to get back there. I haven't been since I was, 20 or something like that. So it has been quite some time. It is an event that you are not going to want to miss. So same team that brought you Bitcoin 2022 and previous events is bringing you this event. We're partnering with a team on the ground there. We got a beautiful venue and it is going to be a great time. So we just announced it yesterday. Details are still rolling out. If you're on our mailing list, you'll have early access. Otherwise, tickets go on sale on Friday. It's a great opportunity to be a whale. Whale passes start at just under $3,000. And GA passes at $250. So we are excited to bring this event to the European Bitcoin community. I'm excited to partner with people on the ground there already. There's already a phenomenal Bitcoin scene. I'm already in touch with some of the local organizers of Bitcoin meetups. So yeah, there's a lot to discuss, but that's kind of just that very high level. CK, I'll let you jump in.
No, I'm so excited for this event. And just a little bit of history. Bitcoin 2019, which was the very first Bitcoin conference that Bitcoin Magazine put on, was really inspired by Bitcoin 2013, which took place in the Bay Area, San Jose specifically. And that's why we chose San Francisco to launch the Bitcoin conference. So guess where the next biggest Bitcoin conference was held? Is Amsterdam. So Bitcoin 2014 was or Bitcoin Amsterdam 2014 was a huge event in the space. And we thought it was the perfect place to launch our first international event. And Amsterdam is just a fantastic city, known for, legal marijuana, other just freedoms and liberal activity that is available there that has been kind of taboo across the world. And we think that Bitcoin is all about freedom. We think that Amsterdam is a freedom city and has a great history of freedom. And there are an enormous amount of amazing Bitcoiners there. Our very own Aaron Van Wirdum and Shores Provost, who is part of the Bitcoin Explained podcast, they're going to be a part of the event. They are Dutch Bitcoiners along with many others. So it's super exciting to bring a Bitcoin event to Europe, bring a Bitcoin event to the Netherlands. And I think that there's a lot of fun stuff for Bitcoiners that is in store.
So how much did Aaron pay you guys to put this conference in Amsterdam of all places?
That's funny. Well, I mean, I can just say that first and foremost, Aaron is the GOAT. He is one of the original and one of the best still reporters and explainers of what is happening with the Bitcoin technical protocol and helping people understand that of every skill set. Developers trust him to summarize this stuff, and he's making this stuff easy enough to read for people who, have very modest understanding of Bitcoin and Bitcoin tech to actually start to grok what is happening. So it's an honor for us to continue to support him as one of the OGs that's part of our cast of experts in the space. But two, I just think that he supported this from the beginning, and that's why we did it. So it was actually his endorsement which gave us confidence that these partners are the right people to work with, that Amsterdam has a big enough community to support a large scale event. And, you know, this, I hope that this event, you know, has his name all over it.
I don't want to, I might be putting the cart before the horse, but you know what? I'm going to put you guys on the spot. I'm assuming Aaron will be speaking. Is there any other speakers we can maybe touch on or share today?
No, we
Not.
cannot talk about any of the speakers. We have a lot of information to drop, so don't worry, y'all. A lot new information is going to come out. We have a plan, and we have confirmed speakers already. But we really want to make this event different from Bitcoin 22 and different from Bitcoin 23. This is not like the rerun of Bitcoin 22. This is Bitcoin Amsterdam. It's its own thing. We are embracing what is happening in the Bitcoin space. And honestly, Europe has so much Bitcoin potential, some of the best and coolest Bitcoin companies, but it also has a lot of headwinds. There is a very strong anti-Bitcoin sentiment, especially high up within the powers in Europe. And there's a very strong pro CBDC narrative coming from the ECB. They're probably the most prominent central bank other than the Chinese central bank that are pushing CBDCs. So I think we need to put a flag in the ground and defend Bitcoin in Europe and help bring Bitcoiners together.
Yeah, and that's really the part that I'm most excited about. I mean, if you have heard me talk at all about Bitcoin meetups, this is my jam, right? So the vibes that we'll have at Amsterdam, it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be the world's largest Bitcoin conference, but there's going to be several thousand people there, and it's an opportunity to meet other Bitcoiners and see what's happening globally, right? I think what's been surprising for me already, just in the early days of planning this event, is how often I forget how small America is, right? So all of my North American Bitcoiners, anyone who's watching this stream, like, man, we are just a teeny fraction of the world. And as soon as we opened up Amsterdam ticket sales and announced it, it was crazy just to see the momentum and how much excitement there is from all around the world. And so if you're a Bitcoiner, I mean, especially right now as we head into a bear market, like being around other Bitcoiners and seeing what's happening globally in this movement, I think is some of the most important activities that you can be doing as a Bitcoiner, getting encouraged, inspired, but also just expanding your own horizons and just seeing what we get to be a part of is pretty phenomenal. We're making history. Like, as cheesy as it is to say, or as cheesy as that sounds, like not just us, not this company or this event, but Bitcoiners in general, we're going to look back at these times and be like, yo, I was there, you know, when that happened. And this is like CK said, we're putting a stake in the ground. So this is going to be a historic event, and it's going to be something phenomenal to be a part of. So I hope as much effort as it takes for North American Bitcoiners to make it out, I hope that you rise to the occasion and join us. And of course, to all the European Bitcoiners, I hope you're as excited as we are to be a part of this event as well.
I don't know if you guys realize, well, P, you're muted, but I do want to highlight the fact that you are a time traveler from the future and you actually had a chance to attend Bitcoin Amsterdam. So can you maybe share with us what that experience was like?
Yeah, can you hear me now? Okay, great. Yeah, there's some audio interference. Being from the future, it can cause issues with technology. It was absolutely incredible. Not only did I learn a ton from the Bitcoin Amsterdam conference, but also I achieved eternal life. I drank from the fountain of youth, which we are. For me, it's already happened, but it will be at the conference. In addition to a bouncy house, a trebuchet that throws people into the past or the future. These are things you get to experience if you go to Bitcoin Amsterdam. Forgive CK and George for if you see their reactions. They are not aware of this yet, but being from the future, I already know that this could happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call in the events team and let them know to add some of those activations to the media kit.
This is where I tell you that's what's going to happen. No, man, I'm super excited about this. I think you touched on it a second ago, but the Bitcoin 2022 was one of the largest. It was the largest Bitcoin event in history. And obviously, we're still doing Bitcoin 2023. Bitcoin 2023 is going to be incredible, but this event is going to be more sort of. How would you describe the differences a little bit more between
Well, really quick, maybe I don't even think we said the dates live, but Bitcoin Amsterdam, y'all, October 12th through the 14th. That's Wednesday through the Friday. So highly recommend you come early and stay late. But it's going to be absolutely incredible. First and foremost, it's in Amsterdam. So that's very, very different than Miami. So I think one of the biggest things that someone who hasn't been to a Bitcoin conference that they need to understand is like the Bitcoin conference is a spectacle in and of it itself, but there's so much more than what just happens on the campus. There's everything that happens in the city, before, after, and around the event. And you can't replace the fact that Amsterdam is one of the coolest and most unique European cities that people can hit on. And it's a perfect time in terms of weather for Europe and Amsterdam. And, outside of us having a really strong focus on European Bitcoiners and Dutch Bitcoiners and the legacy of Bitcoin there, there's just that aspect of Bitcoin in Amsterdam, given this bear market, given the crowd that will be attending. It's going to have very much what I think is a Bitcoin 2019 vibe, very much the hardcore Bitcoin diehards. And I think Europe has been really thirsty for an event like this. Every single year at the Bitcoin conference, European Bitcoiners are the ones who are jumping through the most hoops to travel to be at the event. So I think that they're going to be really excited about this event in October.
I hate to ask. I want to ask this because unfortunately, there are restrictions. We had a lot of people who wanted to come join us in Miami who maybe weren't able to come into the country due to the vaccine requirements. What is the vaccination requirement for the conference as well as just getting into Amsterdam?
Yeah, so for the conference itself, there are no requirements. We don't care about your personal information. We're not going to ask for any of that. As long as you have a ticket, you can get in. As far as entry into the country, so it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. This is in our FAQs, so make sure to check that out. But I'll just tell you that to get into the Netherlands, they do, if you're flying in, require a Vax passport currently. So for those of us who are unable to produce one of those, we'll be flying into a nearby country. I'll be flying into Brussels and taking a quick train ride into Amsterdam. So we've already tested this with a few of our team members. It does work. And if you're coming in from other European countries, they don't check. So that's really the key.
So stay tuned. We'll be creating a caravan or a shuttle soon enough.
Hell yeah.
I want to ask on behalf of an attendee of both 2022 and 2021, what is it going to be? Sort of a similar setup, expo hall with some sponsors and booths, and then some speaker halls as well. Talk to us about just sort of how you envision it looking on October 12th.
Wait, hey, before I do that, sorry, can I say one more thing about that last question? If that spooks you at all, I would just encourage you to question why that is and to challenge you a little bit. If somebody tells us what to do, our response really needs to be no, we're going into this country and we're going to go and we're going to host an event. We're going to put a stake in the ground and we're going to celebrate. And if it pushes you out of your comfort zone a little bit, I think that's okay. And I think there's gonna be a lot of questions around this particular point. And it's important to remember sort of where we've come from over the last couple of years with COVID and all the bullshit and everything. So I know for me, it's an inconvenience a little bit, but I'm excited for the train ride. And I just want to make sure people don't get too hung up on that and have that be a blocker, because it's definitely going to be worth it.
Well, so that's why I brought up the European Bitcoiners. So here's the reality, y'all. One, there's a very clear path for, how people can get to Amsterdam given the current rules that are out there. And two, for Bitcoin 21 and for Bitcoin 22, there was a lot of hurdles for non-Americans to get into the United States to attend, and they still figured it out. People were committed to being at this event. So I think that there's some potentially Americans who, and I honestly haven't even heard people who are being dramatic about this, but maybe you're being dramatic because you can't fly directly to Scripple. I've heard that Scripple is a complete S show anyways right now. So maybe it's better not to fly into there. And just, again, the train net is super cheap, like less than $50. And I know for a fact that there's going to be Bitcoiners caravanning there. So for Bitcoin 21, there was Europeans who are having a 2-week vacation in Latin America, so that way they can go to the Bitcoin conference in Miami and kind of like manage through the COVID procedures there. So I know that Bitcoiners are going to be caravanning. It's very easy to fly into a neighboring country and taking cheap public transportation into Amsterdam, and then you can just fly out of Amsterdam. So it's no sweat on your back, really. And we're going to hopefully lean into it and help organize some stuff.
Cool. Sorry, I totally derailed Q's most recent question. What's the layout going to be like? What's the vibe going to be like? Yeah, so the venue, Westergas, is phenomenal. It's one of the hardest venues to get in the country. You have to book it several years out. Our partners on the ground had it booked already, so that's one of the reasons we jumped on the opportunity to work with them. And if you go to our website, you can see some of the aerial photos. Very, very Bitcoiner vibes. We are going to do Sound Money Music Festival again this time around, and it'll be this is kind of their wheelhouse, the company that we're working with. So yeah, there's going to be 2 to 3 stages, including the live desk will be back. And I know you guys are excited about that, and I'm stoked to see you on there. I think that was one of the most demanded features of the event. So yeah, these are some of the photos. Very historic venue, very rustic looking, and I'm excited to get out there and check it out and take over the whole town.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit too, that it's like a full campus right along the river. So like there's going to be this kind of potentially even like college campus vibe where there's just so much energy on this whole block of land that encompasses a lot of different buildings. And you can see the canal is right there, walking distance. And, the whole city is so walkable. This big, the big dome that is like featured in a lot of these photos, that's where the main stage is going to be. And all the other activations are going to be surrounding. Again, the campus has a bunch of different buildings, so it's going to be an indoor-outdoor vibe. And again, it's going to be really freaking awesome. I don't know if people have been to Riga for Baltic Honey Badger, but they have every year a really nice indoor-outdoor vibe. Obviously this is going to be a lot bigger and a different kind of production value than Riga, but I think that this is going to capture a lot of the same essence and, potentially even more because Amsterdam is such a historic and international freedom city.
So true or false? There is a stage that has like a 360-degree sort of amphitheater.
So yeah, that's that main stage building. I don't know exactly how the final, kind of build decisions are going to go, but there's 100% potential to do that, and I think that's the current plan is to do the stadium kind of seating with the 360.
Because when I was about I don't know, like 8 or 9, I saw a production of the musical Cats. And it was done in a 360-degree setup, and it sort of slowly rotated around, and it changed my life forever. I had nightmares for weeks, was traumatized. It's why I am the man I am today. I'm super excited for this stage. I love the idea that there's going to be something with people, seeing everything from all angles. I'm pumped. CK, you promised me that you were going to do like back handsprings, sort of flip into the stage and then announce Bitcoin Amsterdam. I'm going to be really disappointed if that doesn't happen.
You said CK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Because CK used to be a gymnast, so he could do that. But
100%.
I think, P, you should show
the fattest gymnast that you ever seen. The fattest little toddler gymnast. That was me.
Adorable.
P, we should show everyone how you actually, ever since watching Cats, actually became part cat. It like infested your body. So feel free to change into that. But I do want to ask, we had so many different ticket types at Bitcoin 22. What are the different ticket offerings? What are the prices? Can I use my promo code already? Talk to me about tickets.
Yeah, so tickets go on sale publicly on Friday. There are 2 ticket types for this event. The Whale Pass, which is 3,000 euros. I got to use that. Exchange rate is just about the same. I think it's like $1.05 or something to the euro. And then general admission is $249. Again, you can pick up your tickets on Friday, and you can read about what's included in both. The Whale Pass is going to be the VIP experience that you're used to seeing if you've been to one of our other events. And GA gets you into all 3 days, including Sound Money Fest. So yeah, simple ticket offering for this event, and you can read about this. This page is live on b.tc/conference right now.
So y'all, just a heads up, today is Tuesday the 28th, and tickets don't actually become publicly available until Friday the 1st. So you can go on the website right now and put your email in to be notified as soon as tickets become available. We have a limited batch of tickets at that $249 price tag, and then ticket prices are going to go up. So you don't want to be late to purchasing these tickets. But if you have attended a Bitcoin conference in the past, Bitcoin 2019, Bitcoin 2021, Bitcoin 22, or you are a Bitcoin 23 ticket pre-sale holder, check your email inbox where you signed up for your ticket. You actually have access to get a discounted GA ticket or a Whale Pass right now. So you can get your tickets now if you've attended a Bitcoin conference in the past, or the official tickets become available on Friday. So put your email in to get notified right away. And again, there's limited tickets on everything. So I believe our max capacity is 5,000 Bitcoiners. So it's going to be a lot cozier than Bitcoin 2021 or Bitcoin 2022. So, there's a very high chance that we sell out, even, 3 or 4 weeks before the event actually happens. So do not lag on this. Make sure to jump on it quickly.
I had one more question. Can I use my dirty fiat at Bitcoin Amsterdam?
So you can buy tickets with Bitcoin or fiat. And then when you're at the event, it will all be Lightning enabled. I believe that they'll be accepting fiat as well. But if I get counter information, I'll come back on the show and let it be known. But it's Bitcoin and right now in terms of Bitcoin and fiat being accepted for tickets as well as at the event.
And I think, Q, you asked another question about promo codes. Since these are the lowest ticket prices that we have, there are no promo codes currently. This is definitely going to be the least expensive that you'll be able to buy tickets. As we get closer to the event, we're going to increase ticket prices like we always do. And at that time, you might be able to get like a 10% off affiliate code, but that still won't be as affordable as it is currently at these levels. So definitely don't wait. CK said we're probably going to almost certainly sell out of Whale Passes and probably GA as well.
And I just want to throw it out there that you can currently buy a Whale Pass for Bitcoin 23 for $5,500. You can get a Whale Pass for Bitcoin Amsterdam right now for 3,000 euros. So if you have attended a Bitcoin conference in the past, you will never get a VIP Bitcoin conference experience at that price level pretty much ever. So this is your opportunity to get the whale experience. And then if you have never attended a Bitcoin conference before Friday, you just got to go and buy that Whale Pass before it sells out, because very, very limited supply at that price. And we are going to be, as they sell out, we're going to be raising the price and opening up the next bucket. So just don't count on them laying around, because there's just not many. In the past, we've had thousands of whales. This event, we're going to have in the low hundreds of whales. And there's almost going to be a 50-50 ratio between the whale speakers and the whales that buy tickets. So it might be like, on many levels, this could be the highest value Whale Pass that you can ask for.
Boom. No excuses. I have one final question that I'll let you two close out with any final points that we didn't ask you, but I'm seeing none of your business asking you, throwing out there, buying tickets and reselling them. We're still cool with that.
Do it. Flip them, make some money. I know,
Boom.
Q, you like to do that now with our event, but with other events, it's a good moneymaker.
This is a free market.
Yeah, I mean, sell them. Their ticket prices are definitely going to go up. This is just the nature of the event business. People FOMO in, like human behavior is pretty predictable. So So yeah, definitely go for it. We don't facilitate those transactions at all, so it's all on you. But by all means, be our guest.
Is there a Discord channel in the way we had one for B22?
There is. It's the same Discord server, so we'll be refreshing that to incorporate Bitcoin Amsterdam and Bitcoin 2023. I will just mention on Bitcoin 2023, I know I saw this in the comments earlier, a lot of people are asking for details. Those are rolling out on July 8th, so stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, hop into the Discord server and ask any other questions that you might have.
I have to say this, nothing we have said here is financial advice, including buying and flipping tickets. Not financial advice.
Facts. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to jump in too and say that it's really going to be worth it to attend this event. The experience of Bitcoiners in person is a lot of fun when it's a crazy bull market. It's 100 times better and higher signal when only hardcore Bitcoiners are going to actually show up to this thing. And I personally am extremely, extremely excited. So it's not going to be an event that you want to miss. And yeah, I mean, Bitcoin 23, it's going to be absolutely fantastic as well. A lot of more details are dropping there, like George said. So keep an eye out for tickets on both fronts. Don't hesitate at all. You got to go.
Word. And we'll close out by saying, the Bitcoin meetups right now that I'm attending. I know, sorry, this is my hobby horse. I'm just going to keep riding it. People right now are more curious than ever, right?
Beat it to death. I said, beat that horse to death.
Hell yeah. Listen, people are more excited than they have been in a long time. And I'm hearing from people that, family is more open and receptive than ever. Friends are more listening to what's happening because the people that have been sitting on the fence forever are now like, oh shit, I get in at 2017 levels. And so I would encourage you to think about not just, you attending, but also like bring a friend to this. This is a great opportunity. Bring that family member who has been, kind of curious. Buy them a ticket, be a little generous or splurge. And it's such a great orange pilling opportunity. So I want to make sure that we mention that because in this bear market, things are going to, we talk a lot about all these like cliches of, more signal and less noise, and all that is true. And so it's a great opportunity to bring a friend. We're going to have great one-on-one content, something I'm pushing on quite a bit because, we're on a mission. This is all about hyper-Bitcoinization. And how we do that is continuing to show up in places and show the world what Bitcoiners are made of. And people enjoy being around us. They get curious and they ask a lot more questions when they get to be around other Bitcoiners. So I'd encourage you to bring a friend, bring that family member who's been on the fence about Bitcoin, and this will be a great opportunity for them to be exposed to the space.
And yes, there will be a live stream. I saw a question about that, but I know that the legend Junseth is ready for us. So I think we should get the F out.
Yeah, no one wants to see your face anymore, CK. And just a quick reminder to all of our viewers out there, help P and I and this company bet, unfollow CK Snarks and go ahead and follow both of us. George, CK, I'll give you guys final thoughts before we go to a commercial, and we'll be joined by Junseth and HODL, who we are holding hostage in the back room right now.
That's right. Just think, every minute that you talk, the two of them are in pain.
I already did my final thoughts, so I'm good. Excited to see HODL and Junseth on here. So, CK,
if you went to a Bitcoin conference in the past, go into your email inbox and go buy a ticket right now. See ya.
Boom.
Peace. All right, we're going to go to a quick commercial, a quick intro, and then we will be back with Junseth and HODL, Bitcoin bear market ballers. Let's fucking go.
You are listening to Bitcoin Magazine Live. Listening to Bitcoin Magazine Live. Number one Bitcoin Magazine Live. You are listening to Bitcoin Magazine Live. Listening to Bitcoin Magazine Live. Number one Bitcoin Magazine Live. Samba.
What is up, guys? We are back. I hope you were enjoying that. I hope you enjoyed the conversation around Bitcoin Amsterdam. But we are joined now by our special guest today. You saw him here last week. You know him as none other than American HODL. And we are also joined by special guest Junseth. Pete, I'm
Howdy.
gonna let you go ahead and introduce everyone. And Chris, take me the fuck off camera.
I do look like I have poop smeared on my camera.
You do, and you know I'm okay with it. I'm here for it. Also, I
I'm
love that you have
fixing
a
it.
As
Don't
someone
worry.
who has never met you, so excited. You truly look like you live in a college person's basement. As someone who lives in his mother's basement, I feel like I could say that to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm fixing it though, I promise.
lies.
HODL, you look good though.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Do I?
I don't
I
know.
can't
Yeah,
even
I
see
put a
my-
chat window over your face. I was just saying that.
I can't even see myself on the screen.
No,
Am I
you look
well
great.
positioned?
Now you're
Yeah.
fat.
Wait. I want to set the context because I feel like this is a travesty. Not everyone in the Bitcoin space knows who the two of you are. And so I want to take a moment to basically set the context and ignore Junseth's background, ignore the fact that there's clearly like a dead body in that closet wrapped in a carpet or
Do
something.
you want me to get a green screen? I could do that.
No. This is so much better. So much better.
Oh, all right.
Also, wait, what is happening with your mic, bro? Like, is that on?
No, the mic is not the mic I'm talking with. This is just a.
Got it.
Great
It's
mic.
just there for image. Okay.
I'm working on it.
You know, it's all good. It's all good.
fixing things.
So,
I'm gonna do that too. Now I also have a ceremonial mic.
yes. Okay.
This is
now we're good.
the cord is not.
You're gonna make me get like a third. Wait, I have another one over here. Here we go. Here's a shotgun mic just for no reason.
I just want everyone to know I have COVID right now. This might be the last time I appear on video.
Yeah, how are you doing, by the way, man? Are you still fucked up?
Oh, I'm fucked up. 5 minutes ago, I was talking like this. So I did a bunch. I went to the bathroom, did a bunch of coughing. I hocked out a loogie the size of a football, and then I came on with you.
There you go.
He has a habit of getting people who are on their deathbeds because of COVID to somehow get off said deathbed and come join us here. So whatever he promised you, let me tell you, Junseth, he's not going to fulfill that promise.
Look, I can be a compelling orator, but wait, okay, we got to do this. American HODL,
Yes, friend.
Twitter aficionado, raconteur, rapscallion.
Mhm.
Can you tell the people whose lives are a pale shadow of what they could be, who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, you know, I'm a well-known Litecoin enthusiast. That's mainly what people know me for. Oh, Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that? I just think Litecoin's the best, and
Good
you should
job.
buy some.
Cancel this man
It's
immediately.
really
Cut his
cheap
mic.
right now.
Cut his
Yeah.
mic.
Cut his fucking
Black him
mic.
out.
Really cheap.
Just
Good
black him
God.
out.
You
Chris,
gotta-
You know what I like to say when we have hard economic times like this, P, is a little expression I say to myself in the mirror every morning, which is one Litecoin equals one Litecoin. You know.
Good fucking God. All right. There are children watching this stream right now who have been warped, their minds fundamentally broken by what you have just said. Repent, sir. HODL is kidding. Litecoin is the devil. Bitcoin is the answer.
No.
Accept it into your heart and be made whole.
Listen, I'm going to talk to you guys about making big pimping decisions, okay? You could have one Bitcoin right now, or you could have like 9,000 Litecoin, okay? Which one of those do you think is a more pimping decision?
I feel like HODL doesn't even know the price of Litecoin.
I have no idea what.
How the Litecoin's right? One Litecoin is $8,000 right now.
Wow.
Shut
See,
up. You're so full of shit.
this just confirms my thesis that Litecoin is the best.
Junseth upgraded his camera. Now we can see the dirty laundry in the background.
Yeah, that's like some shit.
It's so good. It's so good.
That's not actually the dirty laundry. You want to see the dirty laundry? I'll show it
Yes,
to you.
yes. Show us on camera right now.
Okay. I'm gonna switch it here. You see that? All right, one sec.
I half expected him to not be wearing any. Yo, that is exactly what I expected him to be wearing.
Yes, let's fucking go. It's so good. It's so good. I'm excited to tell you, Junseth, that your background is even messier than mine. Everybody, like, you know, I get a lot of messages that are like, man, you couldn't hear anything I just said. Fuck it, it doesn't matter.
What'd you say?
Your
We
background
need to
is
talk
even
about the
crazier
fact
than
that
mine is.
Junseth isn't wearing pants more than how messy his background is right now.
Junseth never wears pants.
By the way, I'm
Party on the bottom, business on top.
All right. I'll
This
join
is
the
actually how I
party.
go to meetings.
I'm also currently not wearing. Can you see?
Oh, god damn it. Now I feel like I have to join in the
How?
party.
Those are the wrong underwear.
P, you are
as a
the
Bitcoiner,
last
you
one
have
wearing pants now.
wow.
Pantsless.
Listen, if you're not doing this interview in your underwear, okay, you're a shitcoiner, and you know that about yourself.
Yeah, you got to HODL.
Strip
You
it,
gotta
boys.
realize-
Take off those pantalones. P Q.
Pantalones. You gotta
Come
gotta
on.
realize that the undies to wear are Under Armour undies, and if you're not there yet,
I
you're
gotta get
dumb.
some.
Yo,
Yeah.
those are way too nice underwear, Junseth. Like, come on. You could have sold
This
those.
isn't the first
Under
time
Armours.
I've been attacked by an Under Armour maximalist, and it won't be the
You
last.
you wouldn't even know until
guys
you
are
wear
dicks.
them. Until
Yeah.
you wear them, you don't even know.
All right.
That's
They're
interesting.
just the most
I'll get some.
comfortable.
I'll get some.
They're supportive.
Okay.
They're stretchy. So you
Listen, I can be
fatten them.
talked into it. I was talked into buying several million Litecoin, so
Yeah,
you know.
well, that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
HODL.
And what-
I took HODL's advice last week. Sorry to interrupt you, P, but
Wait,
if you may recall, you actually highly suggested that, you know, if you got a Bitcoin, go get your Bitcoin friend. Go get it. It gets lonely. Well, I
Good
took your advice,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm a little perplexed because you're sitting here telling me I should have bought all the Litecoin instead of my Bitcoin.
Listen, I'm just saying that
Is that like getting your
right,
dog?
right
a
now,
dog?
one Bitcoin equals 17,000 Litecoin, and I just feel like it's a great value. You know, it's just a good value right now. Yeah.
So,
I can't do this with a straight face.
no straight face is required. HODL, what are you drinking?
Juice.
This is a Waterloo. I consider it
fuck is
the
that?
gayest of all.
It's
the
his
sparkling
last.
waters.
It's his last drink ever.
Yeah, it's an orange Waterloo. You're
Great.
welcome.
It's the
Mhm.
drink he drinks right before he goes and tries to invade Russia.
I love it. I love it. Okay, wait. So I have failed once again to introduce both of you. We've established none of us are wearing pants. HODL is fucking with everyone and trying to get them
No,
to
I'll do my
succumb
my
to
intro.
unit bias. You piece
I'll
of
do
shit.
my intro for real. Okay.
All right.
Hey,
Did you
so
see my laundry?
I'm American HODL. If you don't know me, I'm a well-known Litecoin enthusiast.
God fucking damn it. All right. All right.
I'm okay, guys.
Can you just cough more loudly directly into the microphone?
I'm worried.
Well, I
about
did it to the side so it'd be a little quieter,
worried
so you
about
can
him.
still get like I don't want to give you COVID, which I feel like might happen if I do it right into the mic, but to the side feels like maybe it's a little safer.
It's very generous.
I was at a wedding when these symptoms developed. I probably infected the whole wedding.
You probably did. Yeah.
Junseth super spreader event.
We
It's
were
not
I
the
thought
first
about-
time he's been called a super spreader.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how for Bitcoin Amsterdam, Europe has some pretty strict policies in place to prevent people from spreading the financial ruin that is COVID. And we were just talking about how you can fly into somewhere else and then take a train in. And I wanted to know, like, can I ride on top of the train? Do I get to like run real fast and then like hop into the train car? Will I get to sleep on a space bag, which is where you take a box full of wine, you take the bag out of the box because box wine is actually bag wine. You drink it, then you inflate it, and then you pass out, and that's what you sleep on as a pillow.
You would make a great hobo.
You assume he's not a hobo now.
I know he's not a hobo. I've seen
None
him.
of this shit behind me is real.
So P, is this channel just like a all day long, like sort of like Bitcoin CNN?
No,
And they're
no,
just-
this is
Sure.
a very
HODL and I
No.
are here because there's nothing. There's just you
Yeah.
got to fill space during
You
the
have
day.
it so perfect, Junseth.
There's no
Literally,
pressure here.
we are only
No pressure.
paid. We are only paid to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, Junseth, I did this last week, and what I discovered is that you don't have to do a good job. You don't have to be particularly insightful. You just show up, and that's 90%. That's 90%.
That
Right?
explains why HODL gets a return.
Wait. Time out.
That's
Time
right.
out. Time out.
Oh,
I think HODL misremembers his experience on this show, because if I do recall, I gave some pretty hard hitting analysis that may or may not have come true just 4 days later.
Robbie
roll the tape?
Lyons there in the comments. He says he was expecting no shirt. Robbie is a good friend. I proposed to Robbie last week that we reboot the Bitcoin Miami meetup together. So I think he's going to do that with me. Also, Robbie, I might have given you COVID on Saturday.
and herpes. You should get tested for herpes too.
I didn't give you herpes. I promise you that. I'm clear of those. It's hard to give herpes spreading from as a bottom,
Anything's possible. Anything.
Yeah.
So, no, the standards are high. We have incredible guests like me and HODL and somebody who wrote an article for Bitcoin Magazine. That's the quality bar we're setting in this show. So,
Right.
Junseth, people who are over the age of, what do you think, 8 probably don't know who you are, but you've done some really interesting
Point people under the age of it.
We've done some. You've done some really interesting stuff in the space.
If you're not autistic,
yeah, that's actually the better qualification. If you are not an autist who is also into Bitcoin, you have no idea who the fuck you are. But I think there was a question that was asked, maybe.
I know what you're thinking there. You're like, that guy looks familiar. You're thinking of Kimbo Slice or Black
Yes.
Santa.
Yes, that is. I did actually confuse.
I see Junseth as a combo Kimbo Slice and Kim.com. He's a mashup of the two, right in the middle.
That's fair. Okay. I was asked a question. Wait, shut up. Cut his mic. I was asked a question 3-4 weeks ago by our producer that was like something along the lines of like Bitcoin, Mount Rushmore, like who goes on the face of the thing. And part of my answer, and I expect you to blush profusely and on camera right now when I tell you this, one of the people that I said should go on the Mount Rushmore was your face. Because you are an important fixture, as is HODL, in the cultural miasma that is Bitcoin. And I think you've done, I can't say this joking because it's actually true, right? You've done some really incredible stuff. You created Bitcoin Uncensored. You did a podcast literally out of the bathroom. Did you ever actually take a shit while you were doing Bitcoin Uncensored? Did that happen? And then that's question.
I don't. I'm against pornography, so I didn't use it.
Okay.
While we
got
were
it.
there, I held it in the whole day.
You can die of that. Be careful. But can you go through and tell us what Bitcoin Uncensored was, why you created it, and why you're not doing it right now?
Yeah, so Bitcoin Uncensored was, I think, Bitcoin's earliest cultural podcast, probably set the stage for much of what Bitcoin culture has become today. Which is it's a little weird to say that because Bitcoin culture is a thing, and I don't think that people necessarily realize that until they're here for a while, and they see that there's a lot of words that we use and a lot of memes that we already have created, and we are very sexist and misogynistic, and a lot of us, like HODL, are very racist. So Like we just try to like keep it real up in
Hey,
here and make sure
just-
that like Bitcoin's a good reflection of like the rest of the world.
Just because I keep telling you you're not actually black, that doesn't make me racist.
Keep going. Keep going.
Well, so
Hold on,
Bitcoin
just-
Uncensored.
Just know you are outnumbered.
By whites?
No. HODL is outnumbered by non-whites right now.
Coloreds. Yeah.
So
Well, and
you may be
Junseth-
comfortable. You may
Junseth-
be comfortable in a lot of other locations, but even our producer's white, but we still have you outnumbered because Junseth's on our side.
I don't know what Q is. He's like a quarter black or something. I can tell.
Non-Persian.
That's the
I am
same-
an enemy
same
of
thing.
America. I am Iranian.
Same thing. That's like Somalian light.
There are all these culture rooms on Clubhouse that Junseth will go in and be like, I'm black. I'm allowed to say this. And they go, no, you're not. Yes, I am.
Well, I get them. The key to it is you have to get them to establish that black people can't be racist. And then if they establish that, then I can say anything I want from then on. And then like they don't know what to do when when you say something very racist. So anyhow, so
Wait.
Bitcoin Uncensored.
Wait, hold on. I want to take a moment here. I want to get serious for a second because I think this is obviously the three of us say all sorts of crazy shit on Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces. We really enjoy doing that, but I think it is actually an interesting.
Well, it matters. So Bitcoin Uncensored in particular, like focused on irreverence, and the reason it matters is because, like, I think there's a recognition that you need in Bitcoin that we are the first people to have thought any of the thoughts that we're thinking in Bitcoin. This is a new kind of money. So, like on Bitcoin Uncensored, we had the famed economist, Nobel Prize winner Eugene Fama. He's the creator. Get everyone else. I don't want to be alone. He's a creator. He's the creator. No, fuck that. It's not a monologue. He's a creator of like.
Makes you seem much more like a think boy when
There
you're
you go. Yeah.
front and center.
He's a creator of efficient market hypothesis, which I think is a very important way to think about markets. But there are these like big economists, and they've never thought thoughts that we're thinking in Bitcoin, thoughts about proof of work and thoughts about whatever. So like early on, I remember Bitcoin Uncensored was with me and Krista Rose, my co-host. We were co-hosts. And I remember early on saying to Chris, like, one of the important things you got to do is you got to make a character, and then you have to stick with it no matter what. And I said, what has to be important in Bitcoin is if we're going to do characters, you have to pick a character that's irreverent, because you have to really live it. Because like if Goldman Sachs calls you or JP Morgan calls you and says it's time to like come talk to us about blockchain, we want to talk about Bitcoin and blockchain. The reason they're calling you is because they're out of options. So they have to talk to you. You're the only one that they'll talk to. So like the culture of Bitcoin, as I perceived it, as I wanted it to be made, was this group of people who, like, if you're the last option and you know it, you're the alpha male. You can walk in your underwear through like Goldman Sachs security, and they have to let you into the boardroom because who the fuck else are they going to call? Some like Don Tapscott, William Moogly Oogly, like these guys are idiots. They'll like bankrupt your company. So the only person that they'll be able to talk to is you, the guy who knows anything about anything, and they knew that too. So that was what was funny. We get invited to these professional conferences. We spoke at the American Banker Conference, and we're up against like the CEO of some major remittance company, and like Pantera Capital on the same discussion boards, and we're there with like shirts that say like Jesus saves bro, and like cats with colors like headphones on. So like it was just a very different, like the whole point was to make Bitcoin or push irreverency on the Bitcoin community, because like it is like the entire movement here is irreverent. It's new. And these like suit wearing scammers can go fuck themselves.
It's true.
Who's changing that
it's
shit?
Me. It's all me. HODL, you're
I hate you, Pete.
I do what I can. I got to keep you on your toes.
Junseth, one of the things that I liked about one of the things that I liked about what you were doing was just like there was like a merry prankster quality to it, and like it was irreverent while being like hysterical, you know. And I feel like some people have taken the message of irreverence and been like, I'm just going to broadcast my feelings about how I hate the Jews. And it's like, that's not, you're not being like irreverent, my guy. Like, that's just, you're just being a dick now.
Well, I
Yeah.
don't denounce that. You should broadcast your hate of the Jews.
Jesus.
I knew where he was going with that. Like, as soon as I started talking.
Oh God, this is the last time I'll ever be able to be part of this thing.
No, I don't hate all the Jews.
You're a madman.
Just some of them.
No, you're right, HODL. I think that I think that there needs to be an irony with the irreverence, an irony that's usually lacking. And if you don't do things with the irony, like that Jew joke, like, you know, everyone knows that I don't hate all Jews. So like, it's just, it's very.
Keep saying all is the qualifier.
The qualifier is what makes it worse. No, but I mean, for those that are super confused, the irreverence becomes so important because everybody takes everything so fucking seriously.
Yeah.
True.
And being able, you know, it's sort of like refusing to be put in the box that everybody expects you to operate within is a heady thing. It allows you to say things that nobody else will say. And I think you maintain that, that like, not friction, but that conflict in order to, I don't know. I don't really, why is that so important? Why is it important to maintain that?
Well, it depends. I mean, I always viewed Bitcoin Uncensored as art. So, and we've been in a postmodern era for quite some time. So if you know what postmodernism is, I think it makes a lot more sense where you have this deconstruction of everything around you, deconstruction of truth and lies. And so the question of like, what is truth is partly explored in Bitcoin Uncensored. It's actually a weirdly important theme. I hate to admit that there are themes because it makes it sound more intellectual than I ever want anyone to approach listening, because I don't think you get anything out of it if you listen to it intellectually. But one of the themes that is extremely important in BU is what is truth. And, there's a great example of this. Like if you look, we got accused by Ethereum, members of the Ethereum Foundation of sending death threats. So we got a call one day from CoinDesk, and they asked us if we had been sending death threats to the Ethereum Foundation members. And I mean, of course we had been, it's a thing that it's a thing that we, are known to do. And we had to sure.
We're so close.
So
We're
good.
so close to finally giving us an answer to a question.
It's so good.
Just can't do
Nothing
it.
but love and respect.
There's a CoinDesk article about it, and as Chris said, he's been doing death threats his whole life. He's been sending them to people since he was 8.
Oh my God.
So,
what does that even look like at the age of 8? Like pulling out the plastic knife you get from,
well, it was
like,
I
lunch?
think it was really like before email, or maybe it was like, those like old BB boards or whatever.
You'd like pass a note in class. You'd be like, hey, give this to Cindy.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
Open
like
it up and it says like die
in the
on fire.
age of like Pepe, it's much easier to send death threats. I have some good examples of death threats people have sent me over the years.
Wait. I'm going to cut you off. This is something I do want to go into.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, separately. Let's talk about the sort of your obsession with collectibles, Beanie Babies, and Pepe as it relates to this conversation. Like, why is Pepe so interesting to so many people? And why did Hillary Clinton say that it was associated with the deplorables? Give me a real answer. I want to hear your real answer.
I always give real answers. So the Hillary Clinton. So my obsession
Wait,
with collectibles.
Start with this obsession with collectibles.
My obsession with collectibles started just a long time ago. As a kid, I was very interested in collecting, and I did it.
I'm
with
already bored of
every
this question. I apologize for
Oh
asking.
no,
Next
no.
question.
I got to get there. So like, sorry, P. But baseball cards and Lord of the Rings cards, business cards. Before that, you know, when I was real young, I would collect business cards. I don't know, just like there's an innate desire to collect. So you know, I lived the Beanie Baby craze in the '90s. I watched women punching each other in the aisles of Macy's to get like Spooky the Ghost with like the V mouth instead of the curved mouth, you know, because they already had the other one at home. So so I watched that all happen, and I was just I loved the Beanie Baby thing as a kid. I had a spreadsheet with the prices of Beanie Babies that I bought and then the prices that I would sell them at. And I just remember watching Beanie Babies and hearing and like being very honest about what I was hearing. And I would hear these like my friends' mothers tell me things like, you know, this is Humphrey the camel. It's worth about $600 today. Someday it's going to be worth more than your college tuition. And I'm just really, really proud to have like gotten this for you. And of course, none of that ever happened. And it was pure delusion. And I remember the feeling of like the fact that everyone knew that was a lie, but everyone was willing to indulge the delusion. And I've seen that happen numerous times in my life with all sorts of collectibles. So I've really developed sort of a collectibles thesis that's really good for me, helps me understand things. And like it was great for like the NFT stuff. So in Bitcoin, we have NFTs, obviously. The rare Pepes are a good example. Those really come out of the Bitcoin Uncensored culture. So sometimes I'll claim that I invented NFTs because they kind of do come out of the show, but really it was a team of like people that executed on this really simple thing, which is they put like, you know, receipts on the blockchain, and then they put like images and like Imgur and a service on Bitcoin points to these images basically and says this output like is indicative of this image. So that's where the NFT thing really started. And I saw that, I just thought it was so fucking funny because it really was art. Again, a commentary on exactly what you could do with the blockchain. And it was just fucking hilarious. And it turned out a few years later, as we just saw, that that's exactly what happened. Everyone did exactly what we thought they would do.
So it's your fault.
Well, I mean, whenever artists come in and they talk about the billions of dollars that artists have made, I usually give them a "you're welcome." I really appreciate the appreciation you're giving.
So, Junseth, background on me: before I was full blown into Bitcoin in Bitcoin Magazine, I actually was an agent in Hollywood, and so you are the perfect case study of why you have to own your ideas. Because, bro, this is a lifetime of quick little, give me my 1% fee. I created this shithole casino that so many people spend their time on. Like, besides the joking aside though, how do you feel about what that market has turned into from what you originally tried to create or originally envisioned?
Well, this is what I tried. Everything I make is fart jokes. So like you are all in this NFT universe. All I could see was the whole world being enveloped in my fart. And it was the greatest feeling I've ever had in my life. I loved it. It like, I've never seen a joke get so serious. And the whole world was wafting it and telling me about the smell and like the eau de fat, the of my own like inner body smell. They were coming into Clubhouse and every other place and be like, "Oh, it smells so good." And I was just like, "Yeah, okay, here's some more," you know? And so like that was the whole NFT craze, is it really was like for me, like people living the experience of what I would have considered maybe the world's worst but most prophetic art.
I think it's really sad that, you know, Peter McCormick decided to cut the part of you talking about people wafting their farts in their faces out of the interview you did with
Yeah,
him.
it's a common complaint. I was talking the other day about how there was a highly edited interview, like the whole shirtless thing. I didn't take my shirt off, not once in that interview. HODL knows he was there.
I was there. I was very drunk.
Did you
though.
see it, HODL? Whose body was that even?
Yeah, they brought in a double. We were in LA, so you know.
Just the perfect body match and face.
No,
match.
it wasn't a perfect. I have a 6-pack.
When we went to dinner that night in Beverly Hills, we showed up at some fancy restaurant, and Junseth told the hostess, he goes, "Hey, what's up? We need a table. I'm Leonardo DiCaprio." And she goes, and he was like, "I'm just fat for a role."
I said, I'm a fat suit.
Yo, HODL, next time you come to LA, you have to hit me up. I'm gonna be offended if you come to LA and leave without hitting me up.
For sure, man.
Tell you point blank.
I was just there. Yeah, I was just there.
Too many LA stories that I'm not a part of, and my FOMO is coming out. All right, let me ask this, as you know, the youngin in the class. Shut up, P. In the class of elder statesmen.
How old are you, Q?
Well,
18.
P is 112.
14.
I'm 29.
You're not that young.
But my Bitcoin years are far younger than everyone here at the table.
Bitcoin makes you very old.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason why P is 101 years old.
Bitcoin's a logarithmic thing. It's real slow. It's like 1 year is like 3 years, and then like by year 4 or 5, all of a sudden, like every day is like 1 year's time.
It's true.
So at what point does it go from 1 year being 1 day to 1 day being 1 year?
I don't know, but you know when it happens.
Oh, fuck. Okay, good to know.
You know when you see it. Nothing matters anymore at that point. You're just kind of like, you're going around like nothing fucking matters at all.
I feel like I've just recently reached that point.
Yeah.
And I'm about 7.5, 8 years in. So yeah, it's like right around there.
You just stop. Like it's Bitcoin Mountain, man. You get to the top. You look at it. You look at everyone around you. You realize that like everyone around you is crazy, transgendered, gay, me, and like you just kind of look at it and you're like, you just kind of look at it and you're like, hey.
Highlight that.
There is this quote.
How did we? There's a plumber over there in the corner, and you're like, how did we all get here?
And like piles of laundry,
and like Bruce Fenton's over there talking to like
he's running for the Senate.
Charles Hoskinson, like
bro. There's this quote
I love, talking about Cardano,
which is being early by 1 year will make you rich, and being early by 10 years will drive you insane. And I feel like we're on the insane end of the spectrum.
There's a Bitcoiner in like Thailand who's very wealthy, who like lives in a hotel and just like pees on the floor.
Is that what you aspire to, Junseth?
I believe that 1,000,000%. 1,000,000.
I aspire, P, to being able to pretend like I do that. Like if I could live that life, like I would like to have, I would aspire to be like, I'm gonna just pee on the floor, and then like, you know, people believe that like that is who I could be. In the way that like people believe Donald Trump might be the kind of guy to have like hookers pee on him in a bed that like, you know, Barack Obama wants. I want people to think that might be who I could be.
I mean,
see, I don't think Trump would, because someone would have come out and said it.
Like well, they did a whole dossier about it. They everyone thinks that he did that. So like it happened, and people were like, yeah.
He probably might be the kind of guy
did that. Yeah. He may not have, but he's the kind of guy.
One of these women who peed on him would have been like, "Yo, I peed on Donald Trump."
Oh, I see.
That chick who pooped on Odell Beckham Jr. came out and said, "Yo, I took a shit on Odell Beckham Jr. and his career has never been the same."
You know, unfortunately, there are probably going to be more cautionary tales in Bitcoin because of the Bitcoin wealth driving people insane than there are going to be success stories. You know,
explain that.
It'll probably be mostly cautionary tales.
I think Bitcoin is like high level math. Do you buy that?
Wait. I want to mine what HODL just said. Keep going, HODL.
Yeah, like,
well, do you mean it's like
the sense of like, is it like winning the lottery and people will just blow it? Or
I think Junseth means it's like high level math in the sense like how chess champions tend to go insane.
It's a brain virus. Yeah. Like for some reason, the way that it makes you think, like if you get in and you start thinking about it, particularly because it's money, like you've thought about money one particular way your whole life. And so I apologize, Pete, but I meant to plumb the depths of HODL's comment. So like you think about money a certain way. It's paper, it's whatever. Like you're kind of introduced to concepts that you haven't really like strongly considered. So you get a credit card, you're like, I know that if I have my credit card, I got to pay it at the end of the month. But you're not thinking about like the fact that these are like bank IOUs and like a check. Like you don't think about the fact that like it doesn't settle right away. You like hand them the thing, it's as good as settled in your mind, unless you're like kiting and you like understand settlement a lot, more than other people. But like Bitcoin is like on a silver platter, sort of an entire financial system that forces you to deal with the reality of what is money in its entirety. And like that breaks, for some reason, that level of depth in any subject seems to break people and make them retarded.
Mm-hmm. It's like, have you ever been, Bitcoin's sort of like a language, like money's like a language that you think in, right? And Bitcoin's like a new language that we're all learning. And have you ever like had this experience where you've been really high and you've just like kept repeating a word to yourself? And the more you repeat the word, the less the word makes sense. And then you just deconstruct it all the way back through the origins of its etymology in your mind. And you're just like, what the fuck is this word? And then you just like, you either have to have a schizophrenic break at that point or snap out of it and just be like, oh, yeah, that was weird. Yeah. It's kind of like that.
I think the last word that happened to me with was bricolage. I was just
Bricolage.
It's like knickknacks. Just said it over and over and over again, and then I was just curled in the corner like in a ball. Just
Bricolage.
I do think that interacting with Bitcoin changes the way you think, for sure. And especially the longer you've been in Bitcoin, the more you've been sucked into the black hole that is Bitcoin. Once you're past the event horizon, it's like things that were on the other side of the event horizon don't even make any sense anymore, And I don't know what happens next. I'm just along for the ride like everybody else.
Bitcoin does represent sort of an event horizon. You're right. And like that's the thing. Like I think there's another part of it too for many of the people who got wealthy. Like if you ever played like SimCity 2000 or something like that, and you have the fund code, you just type in fund and then you're done. You don't have to do anything else. So a lot of people bought Bitcoin early on, and now they're billionaires, and like the game is done, and they didn't even do anything. They cheat coded it, and that's a mind bending exercise that probably will turn you into like a socialist. To realize you did no work and became a billionaire.
I love this comment that says, I came here for intellectual discussion on Bitcoin only to find 4 idiots talking about peeing on each other.
Well, don't forget his follow-up comment to stick to the coders at Cardano. So I don't know how much. At least, look, if he was saying Litecoin, then maybe HODL, you would agree with him and be on his side.
Listen, pay me in Litecoin. You know what I mean? That's all I'm saying. Like,
do not buy Litecoin.
Like, yeah.
So wait.
Also, nothing we do here is financial advice. There's no financial advice given on this show.
Give me super chats.
I don't even know what that means. Here's my question. During this last bull cycle on Clubhouse, you would be one of the only voices of reason. And when Junseth, people would be, myself included, just like, fucking, we're going to the fucking moon. There is no cycle. And you would be the person that would be like, hey, look, you cannot tell, an older American who is living on a fixed income to ratio themselves into Bitcoin. And I find it really interesting that it's like being a contrarian. You're a contrarian in all ways and all times, and yet you are also infuriatingly right, or at least you were then. And I'm going to say you're wrong about everything else, but
everyone says that all the time. The thing about, Bitcoin Uncensored is funny to listen to now because you listen, like, and I'm going to comment on BU and then I'll come back to this. You listen to BU, the commentary on BU at the time was, you guys are right about this thing, but wrong about everything else. You're always wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. And then the hindsight of like 5-10 years, everyone goes back and is like, wow, there's like 80% of this is right. Like 90% of this happened. And I think it's like there's just a lot of things that are very obvious, right? And I think during hello HODL, during a bull run, there has to be an upper limit on these things, right? Because there's only so much money that can be expended in these things, and like it's got to reach heights, and it's got to like it's going to come down, and I don't know when that's going to happen, but there's just general principles of finance. Like I believe, like I said, strongly in efficient market hypothesis. So if you apply like good principles of finance to Bitcoin, you can come to these conclusions that actually are really, really important during like bull runs and bear markets. Like during bear markets, I'm deploying capital to buy Bitcoin. During bull runs, I'm like selling on the way up. And my dad always calls me during the bull runs and asks if it's time to put money into Bitcoin. He's a retired old man who's probably senile.
I guess the thing that I found so interesting is that the public perceptions that both you and HODL have as these incredibly irascible, angry personas. In these longer form conversations, you actually were so, in very unexpected ways, compassionate, and would spend, honestly, hours talking to random people, really going into the nuances of these complicated topics. I personally just found that totally unexpected, and it was just very interesting to me.
Well, someone has to combat the stupid P.
I used to tell people, like, basically, like, judge me on my work because my personality is just for effect. Like, it's just a tool. You know what I mean? Being this way or that, like this type of humor, trying to shock people out of their predetermined like patterns of belief or whatever. Like, they're all just tools that you can use to try and get through to people. It's really fucking difficult to get through to people. And if you approach everybody in like sort of this one note, like, I love Bitcoin and Bitcoin is great and I want you to buy Bitcoin. I love you. It's not like who's going to listen to a person who's like that? That's, I would never listen to that message. Like,
well, I tell people to judge me, how judge me. Judge me, please. I'm the worst person you've ever met. I'm a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, misogynist.
Yeah.
You name it, I am it. I'm a transgendered cis white male who's also black.
Not transphobic, you Matt.
I'm also transphobic, self-contained. Like I'm anything that's bad. Just cast it on me. Also, if you're 60 or above, don't YOLO into Bitcoin.
Bitcoin Tina.
No, I mean, like, the thing is, like, in Bitcoin, in every space, but like this again was like the desanitization of Bitcoin. Like, Bitcoiners still do it, and it really annoys me. But like the notion that we follow people, have like these oracles. Like, there's a de-orcalization that needs to happen. Like, like, you don't want to listen to Elon Musk tell you what to do. You don't want to listen to like Bill Gates or anything like that. There's Michael Saylor, like, seems like a perfectly nice guy. Like, I don't give a shit what he does. Like,
right.
He's new, and even if he wasn't new, like, I know guys that weren't new that started scams and came here, and instead of scamming, they dropped Bitcoin because like it didn't treat them well, something like that.
Well, and it's like, I bet you, like, for me anyway, this is true, and I bet it's true for you too, is that like a large part of the humor and the irreverence and everything is like, don't follow me. Do not follow me.
Hate me. That's fine.
I'm just some dude.
Here's a fart joke. Also, here's some advice. If you think the advice is good, follow it. But like, laugh at the fart joke. Like, these are all really like very important aspects. I think just in life in general, like this idea of the oracle. The oracle is very dangerous, especially to movements like Bitcoin, because like, for all the paranoid autists that are here who believe the CIA is in control of everything, they sure do give the CIA or whoever the hell wants to a great vector of control just by believing every important person who's new, like, oh, Elon Musk now, oh, like, oh, this week it's Saylor, next week it's Kim.com, like, whatever the fuck it is. But these people, they just love following these like Oracle, these famous individuals that come to Bitcoin. Why would Gary V know what an NFT is? Like why would he know more than you? He just got here.
Yeah.
He got here. Why do you think he's here? Do you think he's here to like describe to you the great benefits it's going to be to his business that NFTs have been invented, or do you think he's here to take your money?
By the way, also one of the things, there's a lot of hypocrisy in the Bitcoin space. All these people being like, I'm self-sovereign, extreme personal responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But then also it's like, hey, bro, you shilled me that thing and I bought it. Now I'm poor. And it's like, what happened to extreme personal responsibility? Did that just go out the window? You're responsible for your own life, dipshit. Like, so figure it out. No one else is responsible for you.
Well, I've learned that too in investments. Like I've done much better in like the not in the earliest part of the Bitcoin, you know, like when the cycles, like where we're going from like 18 cents to like thousands. But in the latter years, as I've learned how to manage my own finances in Bitcoin, in the you know, selling as it goes up and buying as it goes down and such, I've just done much better. And like I don't depend on anyone else's predictions or like discussion. I have like non-algorithmic, or I have algorithmic only strategies for my own trading that are based on like principles of efficient markets. And like the result is that I don't feel bad about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame anybody for anything. I always have, you know, money to pay the taxes. I don't have to sell Bitcoin at bad times. I have cash on the side when Bitcoin goes down. I get to take profits when Bitcoin goes up. Like it's just, I think that the self-sovereignty thing really requires individuals to really dig in and understand exactly what it is that they're holding. And most people don't have that.
Yeah, I think also you got to pick this, you got to know yourself. You got to have a high degree of metacognition, which just means thinking about your own thinking and know who you are and what you do and what you can handle and what you can stomach. And maybe being 100% in and hodling is not the right move for you because you just, you know, have a high degree of emotional volatility. You can't stomach it, whatever. Like me personally, I am 100% in and hodling. That is my strategy. But it works for me. Like it's not an easy strategy, I'll be honest.
And 99% of people that do something are going to be wrong about how they handle down markets. Like it's insane. I know people are like, oh, I could handle it, no problem. And then I watch them like the day the market falls. And like I that Mr. Bean thing where he's sitting there on the like roller coaster, like that's me now. But like it took me years to get there, a lot of cycles for me to stop giving a shit. But like that's not you just cannot show up here and be that person if you've never done this before. You are a psychological human, and it's very difficult to watch half of your money disappear in 20 minutes and be okay with that. It's really, really weird.
Totally. You show up here as a unformed block of marble, right? And then like over time you get chiseled away at, and then you become
really,
you know, whatever you're gonna become.
You know how long you sit your family down, you're like, okay guys, really excited. Your father has made you all the children of a millionaire. We're worth a lot of millions of dollars. So congratulations to all of you for picking me as your dad. We did it, guys. We did it. And then like 3 days later, he said, like, hey guys, we're impoverished. We have nothing left. We can't afford Snicker bars. I know what I said the other day, but like it is off the table. No vacations. Disney's gone. You're going to move into that mansion. Not happening. I rescinded it. I actually let them keep the down payment. We're not doing anything. And then 2 days later, you're like back. You're like, guys,
we've made it.
We're double what I told you 2 days ago. Great. Like then the next day, guys, actually off again. It's all gone. Everything's gone. Like, how do you handle that emotionally? Like, you think about like,
I literally.
This would be a great like Bitcoin skit. Like,
this is just me. I'm just actually that person. I gave my wife a speech when we were at like 69K. I was like, listen. I remember I was sitting at the kitchen table. I was like,
you don't have to work. No one has to work.
I was like, I am just better than everyone. I'm just right. Everyone else is wrong. I'm never going to listen to anyone ever again. Only myself. I'm the only one who knows what's real. And then
It
like
drops, and you're like, babe, we have runway enough for like 4
like
years. We gotta hope
weeks,
that it
like 2 weeks ago, I was like, so the pool guy, I can probably put the chemicals in myself. Like that's not a big deal. Food delivery
grocery shopping
apps.
apps. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go
Yeah, I
do
was
that.
like, I'll start doing the cooking around here. Like, don't worry about it, babe. I got you.
honestly, like we clean week, we get what, a maid every day. Let's bring her down to once a month, and we'll just keep things tidy in between.
Clearly, Junseth, you got rid of the maid like in the last bear market because your house is.
Well, I usually have a green screen to cover this up. I just have green screens everywhere, so my wife doesn't know what the house looks like.
That this is how she interacts with you through.
Yeah.
You're like, we can't have a real conversation. Interact with you through the podcast.
No, this is so what's happened is in our right now we have COVID, so everything's excusable. But what's happened is the rest of the house, we live in a tiny little spot. I have a little 1,100 square foot apartment. Part of my investment thesis, very simply, is that houses are the quickest way to delete your future wealth. And so we have a very small home. My housing budget per month is about $1,000 total.
Never say a number.
It's about $1,000 total.
For each you and your wife, or just you, like
Total. Total.
So
where in the fuck can you get a place for $1,000 a month? Mind you, I'm coming from Los Angeles, so
Yeah.
are you in a box under the freeway?
this is just a very elaborately painted set behind him. It's all just cardboard and nothing else.
No, I mean, like you can find places in Florida. That's where we are. But you get a 30-year mortgage. You amortize it out, and you look at it, like especially when the interest rates are very low, and like these were just cheap places. So at some point we'll probably buy a nicer one, but it's just like a lot of people buy these big houses, and if you do the math on how much you delete over time, particularly from like a Bitcoin sort of point of view, the amount of growth you're giving up over time is humongous. And like there has to be a time when you're willing to kind of give that up. But it seems like if you can push that off as far as you can, and have, what is it, a high time preference? Is that the right one, or low time? I never remember. It's the opposite of what I think. So
it's a middle time preference.
A middle time. You'd have a middle time preference. If you can have a time preference that pushes out the desire to purchase something big, like you just end up a lot wealthier. So like we have a very small place, and the room that I've ultimately set up in here is kind of my the room where all the mess goes from the rest of the house, just like the computer room.
So what were the kind of psychological profiles of people, or even just for yourselves, going through the various halving cycles? Like, what was your conviction level, personal beliefs around whether or not you'd be eating cat food in the future? Like starting from first cycle, second cycle, third cycle.
Junseth can go first because he's seen all the cycles. I've only seen 2.
So I've been in a weird position, I think, because Bitcoin has always felt expensive to me at all times. I've said this to other people. When Bitcoin was 18 cents, I was sleeping on air mattresses and barely paying my electric. When Bitcoin was $7, I was, making enough to eat ramen. When Bitcoin was like 14 to 200, I was, my first business was just getting off the ground and kind of, tapping out. When Bitcoin was at 1,000, that business was kind of like clear to me that wasn't going to work out. When Bitcoin, and I started another one, it took another 7 years for that to really get off the ground. Like Bitcoin for me at like 30,000 was very expensive, and now it's very expensive. It's always kind of been the same type of expensive in terms of like my own ability to buy it. So like for me, I've always felt very much like an observer of Bitcoin. Like I'm a participant in some ways, but I've always felt very much like an observer. And I think that was kind of crucial with the BU stuff, because in some ways we were the Madden of like of Bitcoin. We would just kind of laugh at people who had really bad takes and stupid thoughts, and then announce it, and just like kind of announce the game on the field. So like, that's kind of the thing. I've just always felt like an observer in Bitcoin. Like I'm not really like the idea of like a Bitcoin community to me. I think that the idea of a culture is important, but like the idea of a specific Bitcoin community, like these people that want to establish citadels. I mean, half the people in Bitcoin are retarded. I don't want to hang out with them. So like, they're autistic, they're dumb, they're like, hot chicks that are here to like get my money. Like there's very few people that are like worth my time. So like I don't, and I'm probably not worth yours as a anti-Semitic Jew hating neo-Nazi. Like you probably don't want to hang out with me. So like or maybe you do. I mean, we do. I guess you are Persian, so you and I probably have the Jew thing in common.
So I'll go. I came in. Luckily, I had been aware of Bitcoin 2011 to buy drugs on the Silk Road. I didn't end up going through with that because sending drugs to yourself through the mail was a felony, and I was like, no thanks. So I didn't end up buying the Bitcoin. I probably should have. It was like $7 at the time or something like that. Then in 2013, my buddy came to me at the bar and he was like, bruh, remember those Bitcoins? I was like, yeah. He's like, they're $1,200. I was like, oh, this was my chance to get rich, and I blew it, right? And so I spent the rest of my night nursing my beer, but I knew enough to know you don't FOMO in at the top of something. So I waited. And then I saw like, post Mt. Gox collapse that Bitcoin is trading like low 200. And I was like, cool. And that was a good time. So I started buying Bitcoin then, rode it up 20K in 17, rode it back down. And I think that's the part that's most analogous to where we're at now, I think, is in 2017, or sorry, 2018, like late 2018, when the price bottomed around 3,200. It felt very similar to how we're at now. I'm not going to call a bottom, but like 17K felt like capitulation to me. And, there was just this sort of internal sense I had that like nothing has changed. Nothing is fundamentally different with Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin got stronger because it just got through the block size war or whatever. So I'm going to batten down the hatches. I'm going to stack more Bitcoin. This thing might not come back until 2023, 2024. That's what I was thinking at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to go the distance with it and buy as much Bitcoin as I can. That's what I did. And then that was sort of when I became American HODL, because I was like, I need to rally the troops. Everyone needs to do this in unison. And so then I was like out on Twitter being like, stack your fucking coins, you pieces of shit, whatever. And just whatever tactics I would use to make that happen. And
Paul Revere.
Yeah, kind of like Paul Revere style. And then now when we're
stack your shit.
It's almost like Bitcoiners are playing a game of chicken with the Federal Reserve, and hodling is you just not swerving, and stacking is you pressing the gas harder, right? But if you panic sell, you swerved like a little bitch and you've lost the game of chicken, right? And I think in order to win a game of chicken, you have to be willing to die. Those are the people who win the game, right? So if you just go, listen, I'm going to put all of my net worth into this, and I'm either going to be fucking poor as shit or rich as balls, and there's not going to be a middle ground. Like, that's where I'm at. And you have that level of conviction. Like, now's a great time for you.
A good game of chicken always ends with either one winner or two losers.
Exactly.
Because they both die.
Yeah.
One winner or two losers. It's like Russian roulette.
Yeah.
I'm just having this vision in my head of like two chickens running full tilt at each other.
I read the whole Wikipedia article this morning on the why did the chicken cross the road joke.
Ooh.
Where did it come from? Would you like
to? It comes from some like almanac from like the 1800s or 1700s. It's actually it's a very like highfalutinly written about joke, but they make the point in the Wikipedia article that like basically all iterations of it are recalls back to the joke, which is interesting because the first joke isn't really that funny, but the recalls are simply for the purpose of like recalling the badness of the first joke. But then there's also good iterations, like why did the chicken cross the Mobius strip?
So is the original joke just why did the chicken cross the road to get to the other side?
Basically, yeah. That's the original joke.
Yeah.
What was your favorite variation?
I like why did the chicken cross the Mobius strip?
What's the answer?
Did you get to the same side?
I don't like that joke.
Yeah.
It's like
Feel
five.
attacked, angered.
That's honestly
Curious.
very autistic humor.
I don't,
So
I don't
It really is.
I've
putting
ever
you in
heard.
timeout.
I don't think I've ever heard a good version of that joke.
They're not good. None of them are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite joke is
Why did the chicken cross the playground?
Uh-oh.
Why?
Here it comes.
To get to the other slide.
I
Ooh.
remember that from when I was like 4, bro.
I didn't see that one coming. All right, fair enough. HODL, what's your favorite joke?
Oh, my favorite joke is knock knock.
Who's that?
Who's there?
9/11.
9/11 who?
You said you'd never forget, bro.
Oh, he got you. He fucking got you.
I like that one.
Terrible.
It's a good one. It's a
P,
good
you
one.
want to know my favorite joke?
Yes.
And it said, what's 9/11?
Face.
That was a terrible joke. My face is gorgeous, and you know this.
I laughed.
It was pretty funny. We've been talking about it. No one else. This is just for us. I'm sorry, audience members. I finally got access to DALL-E 2. It's incredible.
Did you really?
All of my
Wait,
dreams.
okay,
have come true.
before we do that.
Pete,
before
can
we
you
do
make
that-
can you make some pictures of me?
Yes.
No, he can't because he literally used all of
I
his
did. I
trial
burned through
runs
all of it.
already.
He
Did you make
sent
some
me,
pictures of me?
It
he
resets every
sent me
24
the
hours.
text of 9/11 gender reveal, and I thought it was one of the most genius things I'd ever seen. It's
I
like
wish I
pink
could-
smoke coming off.
I wish I could take full credit for that. But that was my own version of that. But I saw the prompt from somebody
It was
else.
funny.
But
All right,
fun.
if we don't get canceled by the end of this stream, I'll be very, very proud of Bitcoiners out there.
no, we're gonna edit all
Oh, you
this
won't
out.
get canceled. You won't get canceled. Don't worry.
All right, I want to hear a little bit more like story time. Talk to us about these market downturns in the past. Junseth, you've seen them all. HODL, you sat there sipping on beers during the first one. What?
Well, HODL did
What
not
is-
sip on beers on the first. He did not remember the first one. The first. So
Second one. First.
What's
yeah,
what's
the really
similar
the
and what's different between some of these past iterations of those drawdowns and what we see today?
well, let me take you through them as I recall them. They're all very different, and this is what like is frustrating because like in every rise up, the fervor is the same. Like
Yeah.
American HODL comes out and he goes, "We're gone to $1 billion," and I got to be like, HODL, pull your pants down. I got to grab his penis and kind of keep him like on Earth, like a balloon handle, string.
Yep.
It's very thin
True.
penis, and but like that happens during every rise up. And the thing is like, it's hard because you don't know when these things are going to hit a top. There's no indicator. So I remember the first one was like, there was a story on NPR about Bitcoin. And right after that story, like Bitcoin, and I think it was right around the time of like, there were a couple of other things that were happening around, but the way that I remember was NPR. And it shot up. Bitcoin shot up. And Tone Vase always tells this differently because I don't think was actually around at that time and has like re-gone through the history and and changed the story to suit what he thought happened, but it didn't. And if you were here, you would know. But like NPR ran the story, it shoots up to about $30 from like sub $1. And like it was the weirdest thing anyone had ever seen because like it goes from like, you know, basically sub $1 to $30. And then it just starts crashing right away. And on the way down, that's right at the time that Wikipedia announces that, or not Wikipedia, Julian Assange's one.
WikiLeaks.
WikiLeaks.
Yeah.
WikiLeaks announces that they're going to start taking Bitcoin. So this is what Tone tells us that the WikiLeaks started to do. But if you look at the price that like is coming down, it was about halfway through like the $20 floor, hit 30, 35, and then came down to like $20. And that crash was just caused because I think the gas of the number of people ran out. And then Bitcoin sat there back at around $1, $2 for like a number of years. And then that was like, from there, it like all of a sudden started to rise up. And I remember I was in like Skype groups at that time with a bunch of people.
By the way,
Like,
I don't think it
Leaky and
was
others.
years. I think it was like 15 months max.
Sure felt like years.
Yeah.
Felt like many years. And I was in these like Skype groups with people. I remember when this is around the time that like Bitcoin Magazine actually got transferred over to Galipi, because this would have been right right around the pirate at 40. I know you're looking confused and you're like, Tony Gallipi owned Bitcoin Magazine? And the answer is, yeah, he did.
Well,
And I
hey,
feel like,
I know that Vitalik, the only good thing he ever invented and created was Bitcoin Magazine.
no, he did not.
He didn't.
That's a rewriting of the history.
Oh, interesting.
Complete lie. He was just a writer.
He was an early contributor to Bitcoin Mag.
Complete and utter lie. He just wrote a few articles here and there, and they wrote him into the history. The early history of Bitcoin Magazine, it was owned by a bunch of Bitcoiners, a group of guys, and one of whom was a guy named Matthew N. Wright. And Matthew N. Wright, have you heard his name before? He's been written out of the history of Bitcoin. He was a guy in Korea. And Matthew N. Wright was kind of a prankster, also kind of an idiot, just a prick. But I liked him. He's a nice guy. Nice enough. And early Bitcoiner. And he was one of the big owners of Bitcoin Magazine, like one of the major owners, probably even instrumental in Bitcoin Magazine. And Pirate at 40 was having some trouble paying bets. Matthew N. Wright created this bet. He said that, I think it was September 14th, he believed that Pirate at 40 would pay off this debt. September 14th, what, 2013 or something, 2014, maybe probably 2013 or 2012. I don't remember what year it was. You can actually find the spreadsheet online still, I believe. Matthew and Wright's spreadsheet and who's on it. You'll recognize a lot of the names. But he made this bet. I think it was for 10,000 Bitcoin or $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. I don't remember exactly. But that he said that Pirate would pay off this, any of the debts that he owed. And that date came and went, and it didn't happen. So everyone called on Matthew to pay his debt. And at that time, all of the management of the community was done on the Bitcoin Talk forums, and you'd get a scammer label. So Matthew had volunteered to get a scammer label if he didn't pay his debts, if this ever actually came to pass. So when Pirate didn't pay the bet, didn't pay off his debts, Matthew owed this stuff. And he said, I was just kidding. I was just doing it to show you guys how gullible you are and how quickly you listen to someone who's going to make an offer that's bullshit. So he didn't pay. So he got the scammer label. He got pushed out. And the result was a giant mess with Bitcoin Magazine that in a small community of Bitcoiners required an unwinding. Even though this seems like a relatively small scam that wouldn't really roil much today, in a small community, it was huge. So Bitcoin Magazine was ripped away from him, and Tony Gallipi stepped in, financed it, bought it, rebranded it, and did a number of other things until eventually David bought it. I don't know who David actually bought it from, but I imagine it was Tony. And Vitalik had literally virtually nothing to do with any of that. He got rewritten in later.
So he wrote himself in, almost
Someone
like.
wrote him in. Probably Tony.
Interesting.
But it's all bullshit. Like, Vitalik has used that as like an affinity piece. He did nothing. Vitalik did nothing.
Remember,
find Matthew and Wright. Find the history of Bitcoin Magazine.
Junseth, maybe you could enlighten some of the new users because you'll remember it better than I do. I was a noob at the time, but you could tell people about Vitalik's quantum computing scam that he was running.
Oh yeah, Vitalik used to go around before Ethereum, and he was pitching quantum miners for blockchain. Yeah, you can find this online. There's a couple instances of him pitching it, and he's Vitalik's kind of a retard. He doesn't know what's true. He claims to be good at math. He claims to be all these things, but the truth is he's just willing to kind of like repeat any scam. So he's been used over the years by people who are a little bit more intelligent than him, and who see the genius in like using an autistic child in a way to like pump the price of something and to be sort of rendered a divine entity. This goes to the Oracle problem we were talking about.
Like Joe Lubin,
Yeah. Well, Gavin Wood,
Gavin
Joe
Wood.
Lubin. Joe Lubin's a latecomer, but Vitalik, I think, was pretty well aware. I think he knew that Ethereum wouldn't work. I mean, in fact, I'm fairly certain of it. I told him numerous times. Told him harshly enough that he wrote an article not naming me by name, but he wrote an article coining the term Bitcoin maximalism after having a big blow up with me and Chris.
It's true.
And so we always like to say, and it's true, like he almost certainly wrote that article as a result of discussing with us. So we are the first Bitcoin maxis. But
that's a super interesting story. How did the term Bitcoin maxi become a thing that was kind of reclaimed by you and others in the community?
Well, it was instant, P. It was instant.
Yeah.
Like, so Vitalik came in. We used to a lot of things. So in Bitcoin, there's been these communities around which like a lot of activities occurred. So Merchant Popescu had the Bitcoin Assets group. He died last year, as you remember, in a surfing accident. Rest in peace.
Allegedly.
Yeah, I think for real. I liked him a lot. He's a very good Bitcoin troll, despite probably being the worst person in the world. I've done my best to be worse than him, but I don't know that I've succeeded. He went on to see our Lord and Savior, Hitler. And, like I think that he'll probably be doing very well there in Hitler heaven. But straight face is hard today.
Keep it
It's the
going.
COVID. It's
Keep
the COVID.
it going.
Okay. So yeah, there were these little communities. And one of the big ones was the counterparty community, which we had on Skype. And Skype was where, like, basically what would happen is you'd have these floaters around and you could sort of summon people into these communities. So like Bitcoin Assets, for example, one time I came up with this meme that took Bitcoin by storm. And it was the space ghost with the words, "I'm new to Bitcoin. I just heard about Bitcoin. I'm here to fix it." So Mercha puts on his blog Trilemma. He goes, "Who came up with this?" And he puts that up there. And so I go on there and I'm like, "I did." And so they invite me into Bitcoin Assets. And I go in there. And it's like very clear within like 2 minutes that I agree with nothing these guys believe. Nothing. But we all liked the meme. But like nothing. They were like, end the Fed, we're full anarchists, like end everything, like just crush society. Like Bitcoin Core is awful. We have our own implementation that we've written from like binary. Like we are the best, And at the same time, there was the counterparty group. So like counterparty would be the same thing where we'd like summon people in. We'd mention somebody in the Bitcoin space, and within minutes, that person would always just end up in Skype. So like anyone running a scam, like if you mentioned Paul Snow of Factum, he'd be in there in like 2 minutes, and he'd be coming to defend himself or whatever. So like occasionally just to like fuck with them, but also to have fun and argue. It was just like an argument space in Bitcoin. We'd like summon Vitalik in or something like that. This is pre-Ethereum launch. And one of these days he comes in and we're explaining to him like Ethereum can't scale. Ethereum's a scam. You know it. Like you don't even know. I think this is the same conversation where we pointed out that at the time they hadn't even picked a consensus mechanism yet. And Vitalik says, which became famous at the time, he goes, a consensus mechanism is a drop-in. It doesn't matter. And right now we're considering a new kind of consensus mechanism called a 12-dimensional hypercube.
Like, is he just trying to be the villain from a Terminator movie?
He's just a lying, scammy piece of shit.
Yeah,
that's all he is.
Vitalik is a scammer he's doing a. Do you know how Elizabeth Holmes did a female Steve Jobs impersonation?
Yeah, dude, she had that black sweater.
Vitalik Buterin is doing a skinny Linus Torvalds impression. If you don't know who Linus is, Linus is the lead maintainer of Linux. And if you watch his interviews, it's obvious that Vitalik is doing an impression of him, trying to be chief nerd. And he's done a pretty good job because everybody who doesn't know how to code has fallen for his bullshit. I once talked to
pretending to learn Chinese while he's like being interviewed, like in between like questions. Like, come on, dude.
And I once talked to Fluffy Pony, and he said he was at a conference with a bunch of other devs, and Vitalik had released some paper or whatever, and it took everybody like a day to go through it before they realized it was bullshit. And then there were still people arguing over whether it was bullshit or not. But it was obvious to people who knew what was going on that it was bullshit. And Fluffy Pony told me, he goes, I don't know what skill that is, but I know I don't have it. Like, the skill he has is getting smart people to be confused about whether they know what they really know or not. Right.
Well, you might call it like the airport road skill. You know how airport roads, like near airports, or like they kind of like go right along the highway, and there's always the post offices there. It's like that. It's like they're able to like build this road right along the main highway intellectually. That like sounds just like you're on the highway, but you're not quite on the highway. So like it's just off enough that maybe your like GPS gets fucked up and thinks you're on the highway, but you're not. So like your brain kind of does this. It's like those are words that I know. He kind of put them together kind of correctly.
It's true.
Maybe if I give him the benefit of the doubt, he's like saying something that like makes sense if I like just kind of twist it and like try to no, but maybe like me, you know. And I do this a lot. Like I know some Chinese words, so I'll just say a bunch of Chinese words like all at once. And Chinese people look at you like they're like, I know you're saying Chinese words, but are you saying, I don't know if you're saying anything. I don't know.
Right.
And they kind of like are very polite about it and give you the benefit of the doubt. But no, I think that's what he's doing, is essentially just saying words that like mean stuff, and they're close enough in like proximity to these other things that mean things that people are very confused about it, and they think that they might be the stupid people.
Yeah, and Vitalik looks the part. He looks like somebody who would be a super genius. And he certainly plays that up by wearing cat t-shirts and rubbing his boogers on the wall and, you know, whatever, and having these like little spindly arms. Somebody told me they were at an Ethereum meetup where they all went swimming, and Vitalik almost drowned because he can't swim with his skinny arms. And I was like, yeah, of course, that makes total sense. But if you look at a guy like that and you're just like a normal bro who just heard about NFTs, you probably look at that guy and you're like, that guy's a super genius, you know, like he's one of these weirdo autistic nerd guys. Like, totally, I'm going to buy this Nazi racist monkey picture called a Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Welcome to my world.
So where do we go from here? What I mean by that is
exactly where.
To the moon, P. Haven't you been paying
No.
attention?
I got a question for these
Where
two.
do we go
okay, Q.
from here?
We've entertained this concept once before on this show, and there are theories swirling all around Bitcoin that there's the possibility that once ETH officially fails, that Vitalik will make a triumphant return to Bitcoin.
I'm going to be triumphant. He was never respected here in the first place.
That's
So
true.
I want to kind of unlock, like, what would that
This
look like? Would he be
isn't where
welcome?
we intend it to be.
Listen, we can't prevent, you know, Vitalik from doing like a ETH side chain that's attached
We
to Bitcoin.
had it all. You believed in me.
Junseth.
But he's certainly not going to be welcomed back into the community, you know.
I believed in you.
But it seems like that's what he's trying to do with this. Like, he had this whole tweet storm pretty recently where he was sort of like, it's come to my attention that maybe I had a thought this one time that perhaps
He does
the
this.
things that I'm
he
saying.
does this. Me and Junseth have been watching him for
He's
a long
hedging.
time.
It's all he's doing.
He hedges. He puts out these tweets, and then later he goes, "See, I was being reasonable when everybody else was being, you know, whatever."
What
He
can you
sold
do
a
about
bunch
it?
of Ethereum at $7. Do you remember that, Junseth?
Yeah,
Because and he was like,
because he knows.
"Yeah, he knows it's bullshit."
What can you do? What can you do about a guy who spent his entire like teenage years building a scam, his entire 20s writing complete bullshit academic works that mean literally nothing? Like he is. Have you ever seen Pete's Dragon? The original?
No.
There's a snake oil salesman that comes into town. It's a great scene. But like Vitalik is that. He is the like snake oil salesman with like a wooden cart and a bunch of like remedies on like shelves. That's what he does. He spent his entire 20s writing papers that are verifiable bullshit and pretending as if he was like a cryptographic genius. And there's a lot of people who would feel betrayed by him moving over. So there will be no love lost there.
Yeah.
And
I've said this before on the snake oil metaphor. Like I think
Bitcoiners resent him.
what
I
a
don't
what a
hear HODL
Bitcoin
thing.
maximalist is they're a person who stands next to the snake oil salesman and they go, this guy's full of shit. And then they just stand there all day long, right next to the guy. He's like, this elixir will cure your AIDS. And then we just go, no, it won't. It's a bunch of bullshit. You know what I mean? And then people hate us for telling the truth. Like that's basically what it is to be a maximalist.
How do you know how that's how I started in Bitcoin? Like that's how the Junseth character was originally developed.
Yeah.
I was at a Coins in the Kingdom conference, and there was a Ponzi scheme that literally sponsored it. It was called Bitcoin Business Bitcoin Trader, Bitcoin-trader.biz.
Yeah.
And it was literally, their pitch was basically like, we're a Ponzi, give us your money. And so I stood in the middle, and as people are coming by, I was going, this is a Ponzi scheme. This is a Ponzi scheme. This is a Ponzi scheme. Just, I sat there the whole day. And what really like got me was at the end of the day, there were two guys, like the main DJs of like Radio Free America or something like that, like one of those libertarian podcasts. And he comes up to me and he goes, thank you so much for letting us know that was a Ponzi. I was going to give him all my money.
By the way, this is a very Bitcoin personality, because when I was at BitBlock Boom in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, maybe 21, I can't remember, but one of those years, Surfer Jim stood at the entranceway to BitBlock Boom, and he was like, hey, listen, there's a bunch of bullshit COVID restrictions, but if you have a coffee cup in your hand, then they won't tell you to put on a mask. So here's a cup. And he handed a cup to everybody who came in. He was like, just pretend to drink from it, and then you're good. And tell these people fuck off, you know?
That's amazing.
And he gave a cup to everybody who walked in. He stood at the entrance. He took it upon himself. And then literally none of us were wearing masks. Like, and this is like at the height of COVID when everybody's fucking terrified of it. And
that's why everybody there got it.
Got it. It was so, well, yeah, we all got it. Actually, we all got it the next year. We got it the next year, not that year. We were good that year.
I'm good now. I mean, like, I'll go this year. I'll be fine because, like, I'm inoculated.
Well, until you get the next variant. What's the next one?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, do you even know? Like, are you working with Omicron here? Are you working with Delta? Like, what flavor
Omicron
you
for
got?
CIA.
Jumicron.
that's right.
Futurama, great show, love it.
Okay, so we only have 5 minutes left
Why?
because we have another segment. We have Fedwatch.
I take that passion as Junseth will be back. I will admit I have never laughed this hard in the middle of an episode so much that
I'm sorry, I can barely tell the jokes, you know? I didn't even write any for this episode.
Which only excites me for when we actually have you come on when you're like at 70% strength.
Oh, I'm at full strength.
I find
Always.
70%
Yeah.
health.
Sometimes I'm at 180% strength though. So like that's when you want me.
So wait, I want to ask, I know you won't give me a real answer, Junseth.
I always give real answers. Why is everyone
You're gonna tell me
just because they're all so funny?
No. Part of the reason I like saying this is because it doesn't matter. Point is, HODL.
Yes.
Why have you left Twitter? It's a barren wasteland right now. We want you back.
Yeah, I just don't think it's very smart or good or funny or interesting. I thought it was for a while. You know, I thought I got a lot of value out of it. And now I think it's like basically full of losers. There's a lot of people who have like 0.4 of a Bitcoin and they're like, I'm going to have a castle that I live in with like a bunch of hot chicks and a Lamborghini. And I'm going to tell the government to fuck off. And
They
you're
might
like,
though. You never know.
okay. You're like basically like, are you a WWE character? Like what's happening here? Like this is kind of gay, you know, like that's what you think? Really? You think that? It's not. It's a weird fantasy, you know?
I do have to point out that what you just said verbatim is what the first message you sent me, and you were dead serious. So I feel like it's a little bit, you know, kind of gone.
Also, HODL, I feel personally attacked because my 0.21 Bitcoin will buy me a castle one day. So fuck off.
Yeah, I don't know. I just am not getting.
That's even less than HODL thought. Yeah, I agree. I don't see why I couldn't buy a castle.
I'm just not getting a lot of entertainment value out of Twitter.
HODL, have you seen, like, here's the thing, HODL's stupid because he has not looked at the price of castles in places like Ireland. He thinks that castles
they're
cost
cheap.
a lot.
Yeah.
You can buy a
Yeah, but
castle
what?
for like
No.
$2 million.
Couple mil. Couple
what the
mil.
fuck do you do with a castle in the middle of some lock with like?
Oh, I've thought all about this.
No, this is a
You
terrible
need
strategy.
to re-outfit it so that it will accept air conditioning. I think that's
No.
like step one.
That's
And
not
then also
possible.
like a heater.
That's
maybe?
not
Yeah.
possible. There's gaps
Central heating.
everywhere. This is like my fantasy when I was 5 of like living inside of an Atlas or a Nike missile silo. I was like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna be fucking dope. And then I looked all over the country and it's like, look, only 80% of them have chemicals in them that will definitely give you cancer. The other 20% are full of dead animals. And then the remaining 5%, that's 105% total, are just caved in already, or there's a homeless person.
P,
living.
what I always wanted to do was build like a regular sized house on top of a missile silo, like just a small little like homestead,
That doesn't
like a
make any sense.
2-story like small little homestead on top of it, and then like the basement door opens up, and then it's like 12 stories down.
Can I share a conspiracy theory?
Yes.
The conspiracy theory I just got texted is that Roger Ver got a $43 million margin call and told CoinFlex to pound sand. So part of CoinFlex's insolvency issues are directly caused by Roger Ver. This is a rumor that's on Twitter. I don't know this for sure, but it would be hilarious if true.
Why would he tell? I guess because he bought more coins with it.
They offered him, they extended him a line of credit because they knew him to be a savvy, wealthy.
Roger Ver.
Yeah. And then he, basically they needed it back, and he was like, "Blow me."
Oh, so they didn't even
that's
ask
how it
for.
worked
They
out.
didn't even ask for like equity.
I guess not. I don't know. I don't know what the details are. It's just Twitter rumors at this point.
I
but-
fucking want that to be so true, and also fuck you, Roger.
right.
My friends, on that note, we are going to have to call this a show. This has
No.
been
Really a
amazing.
show.
You both are incredible. I appreciate your time. You're both not wearing pants. Please come back
Sure.
soon.
Same.
Sure.
This has been Bitcoin Magazine Live, my friends.
Hell yeah.
Sorry about P's racism, everybody.
Well,
Litecoin,
Junseth, I think you should
Litecoin is-
realize,
Bitcoin. All the other Bitcoins are inferior to Litecoin.
full transparency, this is being streamed right now at the Bitcoin Magazine headquarters. And I had to send out a message just to like check, like, who's Jewish at the company? Turns out this
Everybody.
guy. Wait,
Oh yeah, I know P's Jewish.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm a
that guy.
Jubian. I'm half Nubian, half
Yeah.
Jewish.
Yeah, the thing is, like, we have a crossover, a Venn diagram of races. So I'm only insulting the one of his that I'm not.
I think between the four of us, we can insult every single race without being.
Well, you
called
especially,
racist.
you and me, you
Dude.
as a Persian.
Dude, Junseth, get back on Twitter and let's just fucking tear it up.
I'm
he's
on
mad.
Twitter now at Very Small Claims.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I got kicked off Twitter for anti-Semitism though, and calling for the death of Joe Biden. But other than those two things, like,
Oh, your butt Dickerson.
yeah,
On
It's
that
fun.
note, we're going to
Dick
throw a
Carson.
commercial. My friends, we'll be back soon. Chris, roll the tape.
Litecoin
got
is
an
the
episode-
best.
What is up, guys? Welcome back. And we are now joined by none other than Ansel and CK for a very, very special episode of Fedwatch. So I'm going to shut up and listen.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Fedwatch. My name is Ansel Linder. I'm here with my co-host, Christian, and this is a macro show for Bitcoiners. We are live recording on Bitcoin Magazine's YouTube channel, so if you're listening to the podcast version, if you're an audio listener, go over and join us on the live stream every Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. This is our block, our segment. Appreciate everyone that comes for this time and supports us. Audio listeners, get over here, leave a like, comment. If you agree with our contrarian takes or not, put it down in the comments. Anyway, Christian, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, and I just wanted to highlight that if you do watch the live stream or you do watch this episode on any of the platforms that we post video, YouTube, Bitcoin TV, Rumble, amongst some of the top ones, we do share a lot of charts on the show. Ansel puts in a tremendous amount of research to, make sure we not only have audio commentary, but we can kind of share the visual and the data aspect of it too. So definitely one of the big highlights of watching, but of course podcast is fantastic too, and that's how I consume this show. Sometimes I even listen just to recap on some of the details because there's just so much dense information that many times has proven itself to be prophetic. So Ansel really digs up really high signal. So today's show is no different. And episode number 100 of doing Fedwatch, we have a banger for you guys. That's for sure.
Yeah, and listening to the audio version, I went back and listened to a bunch of episodes so I could pull out some predictions that we've made throughout the last 100 episodes and see, how well our predictions have come out. So we're going to cover that at the end. First up, we're going to cover Japan, yield curve control, U.S. growth fears, and anti-fragmentation in Europe. So I got a lot of charts. Yeah, I will do a companion post to this. So if you're an audio listener, you can find that.
Heavy schedule, guys. Things are falling apart. We're going to cover it all.
All right, let's jump into Japan. All right. So Japan, if you guys haven't been following the news here, Japan is in big trouble. All right, you can go to the next slide. Before we get into the exact yield curve control that's happening, I wanted to cover a little bit of the background. QE started in Japan in 2001. They have been in like a depression since 1990. Of course, QE didn't work. And then in 2013, they started QQE. So everyone knows that QE is quantitative easing. QQE is qualitative and quantitative easing. And they were supposed to do a, quote, shock and awe. So just buy everything, buy ETFs, buy all sorts of government assets, everything, to try to change the inflation expectations, to show the public that they were just being irresponsibly dovish, right? They're just spending, printing. Of course, this didn't work either, starting in 2013. So in 2016, they brought in yield curve control, and you'll see this as YCC, abbreviated a lot of times. And so they did QQE, yield curve control. I mean, they just kept getting more and more stimulatory, and they kept getting lower and lower inflation. Interest rates went negative. I mean, if anything tells you that QE doesn't work, it's Japan. But that's what's brought us here today. So right now they have the 10-year JGB, the Japanese government bond, pegged at a ceiling of 25 basis points. And you can see that on this chart here. Right now, the whole world has this inflation hysteria going on. And so rates are trying to rise in Japan. But that peg, the yield curve control, is kinking the curve right there at the 10-year mark. So there's a battle going on right now between the Bank of Japan and the market to see if they can actually keep that peg in place. What I think is interesting is they call this yield curve control, but really it's not controlling anything in the yield curve. It's just obvious kink at that one spot in the yield curve. So to me, this is a complete failure of yield curve control. And that's what I've been saying for a long time. I don't think they're going to be able to keep this peg. If you go to the next slide. This is the last couple months of this 10-year JGB. And you can see just in the last couple of weeks, it's really blown out. It's gone all the way up to, I believe, 41 basis points. So that's 65% over the cap, the top of that ceiling on the yield curve control. So for me, they have failed to follow through with this yield curve control. Next slide. This
Hey,
is
really quick before can we actually go back, Chris? Can you just explain to the people who may be a little lost, like their goal is to keep it at that line. So when you see that it goes above and below, or make sure that it doesn't pass that line.
Yes.
When you see it spiking extremely way above it, that's failure, right? And you can see the spikes are growing.
In my mind, that's failure. It could be different parts of the day. Like, so end of the day, the central bank is done with their operations for the day, but the market continues to trade for another hour or whatever, and then yields blow up. So, and then the next morning, the central bank comes in and they reestablish the peg. But in my opinion, they have failed because it's going dramatically over the top of this range. Does that answer the question?
No, totally. That makes a lot of sense.
A better depiction is on the next slide. If you go to slide 4, this is a visual of the evolution of this yield curve band that they've been trying to keep rates in. You can see back in 2016, it started at plus or minus 10 basis points. Then it looked like it was going to break out of there. They weren't going to be able to control it, so they put it to plus or minus 20 basis points. Then once again in 2021, it looked like it possibly could break out of that range, so they increased it to plus or minus 25 basis points. And now everyone's kind of expecting the BOJ to maybe go to 50 basis points, right, to move this range, because they're buying all the government bonds. If you go to the next slide, there's an image of that, is the amount of government bonds that they're purchasing. And you can see all the way over on the right, there's just this one bar for the last week where they've done 5 times as many purchases as the average of the last, say, 6 years. So they're buying everything up. They have more than 50% of all outstanding JGBs, and they still cannot control.
This chart is shocking. It's honestly shocking. And Matthew Pines, who was on yesterday, he shared a tweet a few months ago that has got me and Bitcoin Tina talking a lot. But this idea of the phugoid cycle, which is like as more interventions are being made, the scale of which the interventions that need to be made to continue the effect get bigger. And like this chart literally shows that over time. You can see it playing out. And if this big spike is the new normal, as we've seen with all the previous big spikes in the past year, just honestly jaw dropping.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said phugoid cycle. Is that what it's called?
Phugoid cycle. I might be pronouncing that wrong. So Matt, if you're watching, correct me, please.
Well, yeah, I've said that intervention begets more intervention. That's kind of the same idea. But some people think that they're going to be able to keep this peg. Japan has doubled down now in the last 24 hours and said they will keep that 25 basis points. Now, how long till they pivot that and go to 50? I don't know. But it's kind of a perfect storm over there in Japan. They have inflation ticking up for the first time in 23 years or something. It's gone over 2%. And well, not inflation, I guess you should call it price increases,
CPI.
right? Yeah, CPI. And they also have the US dollar exchange rate is blowing out. So if you go to the next slide, slide 6, you can see this is a monthly chart. So just in the last 4 months, it's really screamed north from about 115 to 135. So this has a lot of people worried that it's going to affect what's known as the carry trade. Now, I'm not an expert in the carry trade, but from what I understand, they borrow in Japanese yen at these low rates, negative rates or very low 0% rates. And then they invest in foreign assets, either foreign treasuries or something. So they get that spread, right? They get the arbitrage. And there is worry that if this Bank of Japan allows this rate to go too high in their yield curve control, it could crash the whole system, right? And this is one of the biggest trades in the world. All financial institutions of any size do something with the Japanese carry trade. So what are your thoughts on the Japanese yen and their CPI and all of this, Christian?
We've talked about this before. I think we are the ones who coined economic hurricane, which is a term that I'm hearing more and more, but it's just a complete disaster. I don't know how else I don't know what other information I can add. That's just, my observation. And yeah, I mean, more intervention begets more intervention. All of these systems are getting more volatile, and everything that was built on top of them that requires any resemblance of stability is going to get shook to the core. So, I think, we're seeing that with Japan, and, as Japan gets worse, the contagion in the real system that we've seen kind of small bits of contagion in what that looks like in the Bitcoin and crypto ecosystem, the contagion in TradFi in the traditional system it's going to get crazy. And, these banks, these central bankers, these politicians, they're going to do whatever they can to try to control it. And I don't think they're going to be successful. I think they're just going to add to the hurricane.
Yeah, I mean, they're in danger of losing confidence. That's a big deal. I think the Fed actually comes out looking the best in all these situations, and same with the U.S. economy, because as we'll cover here in a second, the ECB is also having problems with their with people trusting them, or their credibility is the word I'm looking for. And Japan, if they lose this peg, they're going to lose all credibility. One thing I thought that was interesting was this move in the yen versus the dollar is not really depicted all that much on the Bitcoin price. So the Japanese yen, or Bitcoin price in Japanese yen, has fallen very similar to the amount that the dollar pair has fallen. I think it's about 5 percentage points less, but it's not that big of a deal. The Bitcoin priced in Japanese yen did not cross the cycle high yet, like the previous cycle high from 2017, where the US dollar price did. So I think that's interesting. There might be something to dig in a little bit deeper on the yen price of Bitcoin. That's all I have for Japan. You got any more comments on Japan?
I mean, we've had a pretty consistent message on this podcast, which is bearish Japan, bearish Europe, bearish China, moderate US, bullish Bitcoin. That's kind of been, and then Bitcoin obviously, is part of all of those other things. But we are seeing more and more evidence that Japan is now looking good. So on to the next one.
Okay, one last point before we leave Japan. I forgot. So they have the same inflation target that the U.S. has, 2%, same as the ECB. So all the major central banks are targeting 2%. And this is the first time in like 20 years that Japan has been over 2%. So just thought I'd throw that in there at the end. Okay, next part up we have is the U.S. situation. So, I mean, there's a lot of U.S. numbers coming out of the U.S., all these manufacturing surveys, PMIs, purchasing manager stuff, just all over the board. Everything looks very bearish, especially inventory numbers and order numbers, like future expected order numbers. All of these things are looking very bearish, and we're starting to hear this term bullwhip effect everywhere. And that is what we have talked about. Once again, we said, look, you with stimulus, you pulled demand forward, and now you're left with like a pocket of lower demand, and the prices rise, it taps everybody out, and now they can't, make ends meet. So this bullwhip effect is you front load all this demand, and now it snaps back into recession. I've seen that all over the place now, and it's funny, we've been talking about that for a long time. Okay, the charts that I have, sorry guys, I didn't go into my slides yet, but let's do the first slide for the Fed. This is the New York City Fed has this. It's like a algorithmic forecasting tool. I can't remember the exact title for it. It's something stochastic engineering, something or other, but it's like their AI for economic policy. It's still in development, but I wanted to show you guys what this is saying for the U.S. economy, because Fed, even in front of Congress just yesterday or 2 days ago, said U.S. recession is not his base case, but everything around us is screaming recession. Let's go to the next slide. This is just a table from this economic AI from the Fed, is showing this year's growth, negative 0.6%, and next year's growth, negative 0.5%. So even this econometric model algo AI thing is showing recession, negative GDP print. And I mean, this is going to become so obvious to people in the next few months that Powell, I think, is going to have to pivot. Okay, next slide. This is just a visual representation of this. And you notice the right side ends up looking a lot like the left side after we have the COVID crisis and some supply chain issues. And now we're just going to settle out back to low growth, low inflation. And that's what we've been predicting for a long time. Thoughts, Christian?
I mean, in terms of Powell pivoting, it would be honestly jaw-dropping after the confidence in which he has kind of like moved forward with these increases in interest rates over the past it's been three FOMC meetings. Is that correct?
3, 25, 50, and 75.
Yep. So, I mean, it would just be really shocking. And I've been kind of talking about this on Twitter and on the show, but I'm just interested if the market will bounce back hard, or if the realities of recession have hit so concretely that it can't be shaken. So I think we were in a recession before, but there was this wealth effect where people felt rich, and it kind of like made this virtuous cycle kind of move forward. But now that the Fed has tried to quell inflation and dampen that down, the economic reality that was there the whole time is really starting to set in, and there's kind of like the opposite effect. So it would be, it's almost like when good news happens during a Bitcoin bear market, like the price doesn't react to it. It would be honestly shocking if the Fed pivots, and then, maybe there's a sell the news opportunity. Maybe nothing happens, but that would be shocking and scary to a lot of people that are counting on Fed pivot and very strong reaction.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, they're worried about a recession and its effects on Bitcoin, but there have been recessions throughout Bitcoin's history, just maybe not a full-on hardcore recession in the United States. But, we've had recessions in Europe, we've had recessions in emerging markets. And so what these numbers are showing is a very slight recession, long but slight recession for the United States. And that's kind of returning to normal. I mean, Bitcoin has had these 20x, 50x runs back when we had the same story. I mean, we were just returning to that same story that Bitcoin has been succeeding in the whole time. I think it's the inflation narrative for Bitcoin is kind of dead, because we're not going to see a lot of inflation. Let's go to the next slide, because sorry, I have one more from this.
I just wanted to throw it out there too. We've been
Yep.
talking about, like, we have to be careful about the inflation narrative, because we don't want people to go point at us and say like you were wrong. And I think I see a lot of that. I watch on traditional finance media, they're like, well, obviously Bitcoin wasn't an inflation hedge, like ha ha ha, like those silly Bitcoiners. So that was a very interesting thing that, we had tried to call out on this show, and it's again coming to fruition. But continue.
Yeah, so this is just from their forecast, again, showing the inflation. This is the PCE measurement, which is like the CPI, but it's preferred by the Fed. and you can see it's just a return to normal. And if Bitcoin relies on an inflation narrative, this would be a bearish chart for Bitcoin. But in my mind, just returning to normal is returning to Bitcoin's cycles, where it goes 10, 20x, and that's good for Bitcoin. Because if you have this stagnation, so a lot of people are calling for stagflation, but stagnation is better for Bitcoin. Low growth, low inflation, no opportunities anywhere, right? Other than asset prices. And in that environment, Bitcoin is like a low risk opportunity. It's something out there that has this green shoot type mentality around it, where there's innovation, and it's also a asymmetric, return asset. So I think this low growth, low inflation environment is going to be very, very beneficial to Bitcoin. And that's what I see us coming back to for, until the next major crisis, maybe in 7-8 years down the road.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see. You've had a very good track record with some of these directional bets. Obviously, more along the lines of the last 2 years, but on this show. But we'll see how it all plays out. But I honestly think the most important thing is that as Bitcoiners, we seek truth and we try to explain Bitcoin in the most sound way possible, so that way we don't get caught, with our explanation blowing up in our face. Inflation hedge. What was the other big one that S2F stock to flow model in particular? I think stock to flow as a concept makes a lot of sense. Obviously, a model is just a model and it can't be right forever. It's only one side. It can't model demand. It can't model a lot of other market factors, but it's important to talk about the realities of Bitcoin. And, I think talking about the realities of the existing system is also important. That's what we do on this show, of course. But when you see what's happening with Japan, when you see what's happening with Europe, when you see what's happening with the US, which is the most bullish scenario out of all of them, it's scary. And, Bitcoin, 21 million, increasing hash rate, certainty, verifiability, permissionlessness, immune from the politics of the existing system. So that's why Bitcoin's going to go up. And then on top of that, it's an internet protocol that is built on, has exponential network effects built on exponential network effects. So, that's the base case there. But Ansel, I know we have a lot more to jam on, and I'm sure you want to get back into central bank and Fed.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything you said there. A lot of people don't agree with us. It's a contrary opinion to be deflationist, or at least be saying that this is going to end in a deflationary collapse or spike of deflation. But that's what we've seen. And I think that's what we're about to see in the next 6 months, is return to the same thing we've seen since the great financial crisis. So that has been bullish for Bitcoin, and I think it will be again. The only thing else I have is talking about the ECB before we jump into our 100th episode celebration. But so the ECB is fighting this anti-fragmentation commentary. So we played a clip from Christine Lagarde last week, and she was getting a lot of questions about, hey, what about Italian bonds? They're blowing up. These credit spreads are blowing out. Is there going to be this possibility of a European debt crisis 2.0? And I think we might have been talking about that first here on the show, actually saying those terms, European debt crisis 2.0. And so she mentioned that in her answer. She kind of looked frustrated. Oh, this anti-fragmentation thing again. She kind of got frustrated. And then a couple days later, the ECB came out with a new monetary policy tool, very kind of opaque and nondescript of what it's going to be, but they have a new monetary policy tool that will fight this fragmentation risk in credit spreads over there in the EU. One of the things here to explain this a little bit more is that each government in the Eurozone has a different level of indebtedness, right? And as the ECB is going to start raising rates, or they say they're going to start raising rates, that will pinch the more indebted countries. And that's what's going to make their yields and the spreads in their government debts blow out. And that's dangerous. That can cause another debt crisis. So this anti-fragmentation is very important to the ECB. But now, just today, as you're seeing on the screen here, is Dutch Prime Minister. Let me pull it up so I have the exact stuff here. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said Italy should take charge in managing the cost of its government debt in financial markets. Quote, in the division of labor of the monetary system and the bringing down the spread, the country has to make sure the fundamentals are all right, Rutte said in Brussels. The remark indicates reluctance to extend support to prevent Italy from slipping into a sovereign debt crisis. The nation's bond yields have climbed in recent weeks, which signals the European Central Bank is preparing to raise interest rates to fight inflation. Just skipping down here in this article, Rutte said his outlook on the EU has developed over the years from a rather narrow viewpoint to one in which it is more than just one big internal market. It's a geopolitical powerhouse that looks after the union's collective security. And just break in before one more paragraph is, this to me says that they are really seeing that the U.S. isn't going to provide collective security as much anymore. NATO is going away. The EU is going to have to pony up for their own interests, their own geopolitical interests. They were caught with their pants down with Russia the last few months. And so they really think that they need to play a larger geopolitical powerhouse role. So anyway, the last paragraph that I wanted to highlight in this article, which of course I will link down in the show notes. I am, quote, I am really fascinated and positive about the fact that you now see in Italy and other countries reforms taking place, which I was afraid I would never see in my lifetime. We like the idea that you give something in return for reforms. So this just tells me this is the MO of the ECB and the Eurozone. Blackmail. You do what we say. We don't care how your people voted. We don't care about your democracy. We don't care about your laws. We don't care about anything about your sovereignty. You must obey, and we will give you your bailout. So in the end, the Italy and Greece and Spain and stuff, they have the trump card where they can just exit the euro. They don't have to exit the EU. They can just exit the euro. So we'll see how this develops. But I do feel another European debt crisis is approaching. What say you, Christian?
So, I mean, you obviously understand and explain the kind of like details about the dynamic really well right there. I would actually like for you to kind of zoom out and compare and contrast like the American state system versus the European system, because the euro, it looks a lot like the dollar, but in terms of how the debt is created and how euros are created, and then how that debt is serviced, there's very different dynamics between the two systems. So, I think you've explained it on previous podcasts, but it'd be great to just in brief, talk about why it's so important that the Dutch Prime Minister is talking about Italy in that way, and why Jerome Powell doesn't talk from like his state's perspective towards another state in that way when he's talking about the dollar system.
Yeah, well, I would have to go and research to make sure I'm hitting all the points, but for a brief explainer, the Eurozone is a monetary union without a fiscal union. So they have many different central banks, many different governments with their own budgets, and they can have, like we've seen, Greece be very indebted, Italy be very indebted, and Spain and the pigs, the southern countries. So that's the difference. With the U.S., there is both a monetary policy at the federal level and a fiscal policy at the federal level. So it's more holistic. Of course, states have their budgets, but they don't have like a state central bank. They have a bunch of different banks that they can bank with or whatever. So there's a slight bit difference in how the banking structure is set up. Does that make sense? Maybe we'll have to do a whole episode on that.
No, totally. It makes a lot of sense. But again, like, I guess just in the most simple language, why is this affecting Europe so painfully?
Why is it affecting Europe so painfully? Well, I don't know a short and concise way to answer that, Christian. They have differing fiscal policies, different, like Germany has always been very frugal with their government spending, and they haven't printed a lot of money from their central bank and things like that, where other central banks in, say, Italy or Greece, they haven't been so frugal in the past. And so when you put these many different large spectrum of frugality and how the role of the state in social spending and stuff like that, you're going to get a vast difference in their risk structures. And when you have that those spreads blow out, it causes contagion. It causes people to go bankrupt. I mean, I don't know. You had to bring on an expert in these credit spreads with like Greg Foss, like we've had on. I'm probably not the best person to answer that.
Okay, no, I mean, I appreciate the honesty and I appreciate the attempt at the answer. I think that was helpful. Going into some predictions that you've actually made about Europe, you're bearish on the EU because of this and other issues that misalign incentives amongst these countries. You mentioned, again, the pig countries, the ones in the south with the biggest debt burden. They always have the trump card because they can just say, screw off, we're leaving. Talk about like what's your perspective on the EU and I guess its ability to kind of withstand this volatility that is just continuing to ramp up.
Well, the EU has benefited, from the last 50 to 75 years of U.S. leadership, not only in international institutions, rule-making institutions like the U.S. leadership in the WTO, in the IMF, in NATO, in the UN, even, that they benefited off of this rules-based order. They've also benefited off not having to have a military. Like the world didn't want Germany to have a military. I don't even know if they even today want Germany to have a military. So it's like they've gotten the best of all worlds. Then they haven't had to pony up for all of these basic things that any nation state usually has to pay for. Now that's coming to an end. And that's what this Mark Rutte, the prime minister of the Netherlands, was talking about, is that he sees a growing geopolitical influence from the EU, and they're coming into their own, and they need to have a union security force. So they understand that this is changing, and they're going to have to start ponying up. Now, why is that bad for their economy? Well, they've lived in a bubble. They've lived in a security bubble. And just like this Russia thing has been caught them with their pants down, and they're so dependent on foreign energy. They're dependent on exports. They're dependent on, international supply chains. And they don't have a military to back anything up. It's just a really bad situation. Now, when you start having to make hard choices from a family perspective, when you're in a family and you have to make choices between, say, buying shoes and buying a shirt for your kids, or putting food on the table, things get heavy really quick, and you start seeing fights within these international internal systems within the EU. So Hungary doesn't want to play nice with Europe. Italy has been really hit hard by some of the financial sanctions that have been put on by the ECB and the EU. And so there's internal rumblings. And if they start thinking they're being discriminated against, or they can't get ahead within the EU structure or within the Euro structure, they could leave. And how will that affect the euro as a currency. I mean, it would definitely shrink. That's one thing, but it would probably be a painful way to shrink. So credit spreads will blow out, yields will rise, all those things. How does that go for my bearish Europe stance?
No, I mean, I could see someone in the comments who's, I guess, are European who thinks you're insufferable and that you're completely wrong. But, you know,
Wrong about what?
The
What's he
reality
saying?
is that, well, I guess the conspiracy is that this is America's fault, which maybe that's true, maybe that's not. We're just talking about what's happening. So I guess that doesn't really matter. I mean, I personally think that there's going to be more jurisdictions to choose from in the future and that those jurisdictions will compete. So that bodes towards breaking down of the EU, and who knows what's going to happen in the US and Canada and other large jurisdictions, and you know how that will play out. But I think a world where there's more jurisdictions to choose from and those jurisdictions compete for you, they compete for Bitcoiners and Bitcoin and capital and business, then that's a better world for humanity. So I'm a big proponent of the sovereign individual, and I think that there's a lot of aspects of that book that are very directly correct. So massive institutions like the EU must fall for humanity to move forward, in my opinion. So it's not a surprise to see it playing out here. Ansel.
Yeah, well, just to respond real quick to the chat, I'm not saying it's not the US's fault. You know, I over the last 75 years of US leadership, there's been a lot of poverty reduction, right? A lot of great things have happened in the world. And now as the US, like the whole thesis is that the US is withdrawing. The US is coming home. The US is going back towards a non-interventionist policy. And we don't want to buoy up all these international organizations. Yes, that's the US's fault. So I don't understand what the difference is, if it's the US fault or not, because Europe is going down regardless. The euro is not destined for this world.
So you're saying that a CBDC euro is not going to help it? Ansel, the blockchain.
Yeah, if they want to destroy their commercial banking system, yes, they can do that.
Oh, man. Well, hey, everything is good for Bitcoin at the end. So Bitcoin is going to be the escape hatch. And I mean, ultimately, you know, Ansel, your thesis is that as Europe falls, a lot of capital moves to the dollar, but a lot of capital moves to the alternative that is Bitcoin as well. And Bitcoin will be a benefactor of that capital trying to go and find a safe place to live. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so as the US withdraws and comes home, and we go back to more of a protectionist world, so de-globalization happens everywhere, we also will have the end of a credit bubble, and that's going to hurt everybody. Bitcoin is kind of the safe haven asset in that case, so that's just tick off another box why Bitcoin protects us against a deflating credit bubble as well.
All right. So it's our 100th episode, y'all. Ansel did the hard work of going through some old episodes to find some great predictions and see how well we did. Maybe it's a victory lap, maybe not. Let's hit it, Ansel.
Well, yeah, I think the power of any sort of theory is based on its predictive power. So that's what I kind of try to do here on the show is I do make predictions. I stick my neck out there. I make predictions, and I think I'm right more than I'm wrong. So I wanted to pull out a few things. One of the big things we're known for on this show is a strong dollar thesis, the inflation deflation debate. I think we've won that so far. The dollar has strengthened considerably. There is CPI out there, but you know, we also have the worst supply chains in the last 75 years, and it's only 8% CPI. So I would concede the inflation deflation debate at this point if we're seeing 50 or 100% CPI increases. But right now, everything falls in line with supply chain crisis, strong dollar scenario. So Christian, do you think we have been more correct on the strong dollar or less correct?
Well, it's really interesting because the people who would just say, you know, quantitative easing is dollar creation, and that the printer has been going burr nonstop up until the last three FOMC meetings. They're saying inflation is rampant. We are completely right in taking victory laps. Simultaneously, we're kind of pointing out that, hey, yes, CPI is going up, but there's a lot of things that aren't inflation that explain that, right? So supply chains are breaking down, wars are breaking out. There are sanctions that are being had with major economic producers and suppliers that are disrupting contracts and the ability to supply fundamental components to the global economy. So there's a lot of explanations for why prices on goods that Americans like that are in the CPI, why those are going up. And again, simultaneously, how do you square the fact that the dollar against other foreign currencies is screaming up too? So I think that there's a lot of conflicting information, but ultimately the point is that CPI does not necessarily measure inflation. It just measures the overall cost of this basket of goods. So there's nothing the Fed can do to affect the fact that less oil is being shipped from Russia to Western nations. Like there's that's something that's completely supply chain based. So I think that although CPI is going up, our thesis is more correct. I mean, and obviously not 100% correct. It's impossible to 100% know. That's one of the things that's so wrong with the current system is how opaque it is and difficult to analyze it is. But I do think that the facts show that we are more directionally correct.
Awesome. Then we've had a battle between, we called the battle between Bitcoin and the US dollar and the rise of stable coins. I think that was maybe one of our best calls, because if you look at like the top 5 coins on coin market cap, you have 3 of them, I think, are stable coins, dollar stable coins, and one of them is Bitcoin. So like the rise of the US dollar stable coins is nearly complete. And I wrote about this on my newsletter last week, I believe, was the flippening is really the US dollar stable coins versus Ethereum. And that just happened. So I think we got that one correct. Thoughts?
100% correct. And I can't take much credit. It was you who back in 2018 was saying it's Tether was the only prominent stablecoin at the time, but Tether and Bitcoin are the only signal here. It's ultimately Bitcoin and Tether against the fiat system, and then ultimately Bitcoin against the dollar. And that's the basis of a lot of our theses that we talk about here. And so far, we've been completely correct. I'm on CoinMarketCap right now. It's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, USDC, BNB, which is Binance's token, and then Binance USD. So in the top 6, 3 of them are stable coins. 2 are smart contract platforms, and then obviously Bitcoin is at the top there. So I have no doubt that stablecoin dominance will continue to increase. And yeah, bearish ETH, and what happens to Bitcoin in the short term? It's going to be a rough patch here. A lot of contagion is just continuing to unfold, and it feels like we're near the bottom, but also who effing knows where the bottom is at the same time? Who effing knows?
Well, one thing that you were, I think, very correct on is you really pointed out that the U.S. embodies decentralization more than these other places. So where I was saying, I was coming at it from a different angle. You came at it from the embodying the decentralization, and that has borne out. I think that has also led to the U.S. being slightly more friendly than other nations on Bitcoin, and a little bit less friendly than other nations to CBDCs. So do you think that was a correct call?
I mean, I would say the way that the the US Union works is very similar to how the world will work when Bitcoin is the standard, which is that you can leave any of the states but take your assets and effectively your working identity with you. So, and then those different jurisdictions actively can compete for those pool of citizens. So I think that dynamic is going worldwide with Bitcoin, and I think that dynamic has served the U.S. in competing globally and has made the U.S. a better home for Bitcoin, despite many of the U.S.'s issues around being the home of KYC and being the home of the incumbent system and things like that. Across the board, we've seen that the states competing have made a good home for Bitcoin, whereas we've seen other countries have very, top-down, heavy-handed actions against Bitcoin that don't seem as possible in the U.S.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talk about that all the time, and that is really a unpopular opinion because most people just are bearish on the U.S. And we aren't bullish necessarily. Well, I'm bullish on the U.S., but I think the show is not biased towards the U.S. It's just looking at these different scenarios, like the decentralization and the geographic determinism stuff, and saying that the U.S. has the advantage at least going forward. Should we get into some specific claims that we've made?
Let's do it.
Okay, so back on Fed number 71, episode 71, that's where I coined the term European debt crisis 2.0, and that has just gotten closer and closer. Now we're seeing this fragmentation talk out of the European Union, so I think that was spot on. Also, around that time, I was getting very bearish on China, and I said that Evergrande there's going to be a big China slowdown coming in the next 3 months, and there was no such thing as the Thucydides trap, that China is going down. They're just one big credit bubble, and that kind of came to fruition as well. Stop me whenever you have a comment here, Christian. Also, around that same time,
we said this at the beginning. Bearish China, bearish Japan, bearish Europe, bullish US, very bullish Bitcoin.
Yep. And then in February, we had a episode where we were talking about lending. I don't know if you remember that one. It was I can't remember the episode number, but it came out February 9th. So if you go back on our history of Fedwatch, then you can find the February 9th episode. We said something is fishy about BlockFi. Something is fishy about all of these rates that are changing all of a sudden. And so I think we were ahead of the curve on that one. And then in January,
Bitcoiners were the head of the curve on this, to be honest. But in terms of the actually timing when things started to get funky, I think that we were definitely right on there when things really started to feel weird. And I guess it's become very clear that things are not good for them. Things are not good for most of these lenders, and the contagion is really, really widespread. Really widespread.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of Bitcoiners have always said there's something fishy with BlockFi, but we kind of pointed it out at the time when it was starting to get a little bit more acute. So I think that was a good call. And then in January, on my newsletter and on Fedwatch here, I talked about kind of NFTs peaking at that time. And I said I didn't expect it to be like other cycles where some of the altcoin value will flow into Bitcoin. I thought the NFT value would just strictly evaporate into thin air. And that's kind of what we've seen from the NFT side. So, Christian, that's all I have for our predictions. I went back about half of all of our shows to pull out some of those. So any final thoughts on the 100th episode?
Well, no, I just want to say, Q and P, feel free to jump on and talk about some of these predictions if you want. But when it comes to NFTs, I have a friend from college who, was really interested in NFTs, and he was having some, thought boy tweets about, the NFT market. And I just was like, you just mean that they're illiquid? So when things are liquid, when they're not fungible and they get sold or they get purchased, the value is determined by that one exchange. It's not a market for exchange. There are not many, we have no idea how many actual buyers there are for that one thing at that price. And the price can drop extremely fast because it is a unique object. So it's no surprise to me that when the mania dropped, when people had to try to value NFTs based on their artistic value and not because they think a greater fool is going to buy them at a higher price at a later date, that of course it dropped. There's also a lot of adverse incentives for money laundering and taking losses and doing other kind of dubious IRS and tax activity with NFTs. So that's definitely something that can be taken into account with some of these dynamic price swings as well.
Boo, boo. I hate the money laundering argument. Money laundering happens with the US dollar. Money laundering happens in the real art world. It's negated. As far as I'm concerned, it's a push. You can money launder on the blockchain if you really want, or you can money launder with cash. So that's not, in my opinion, valid. I do want to touch on something you said, because I had someone over the weekend try to show me their NFT portfolio and was going on and on about like, dude, this is $500,000 worth of stuff. And I asked him, list one of these, put one of them up for sale right now and put it at the price you actually think it's worth. And then talk to me about what the bids are that are coming in for it. Because just because you think it has that value doesn't mean the market does. Whereas if I were to put one of my Bitcoin up for sale right now, I know the market says it's worth just over $20,000 USD. So there isn't that marketplace with NFTs. And I find it very interesting because then the argument comes around, oh, well, like they're really active and they're bidding and the volume is right. But then you can actually bid your own project. And I've seen this scam. That is the biggest scam in NFTs, is not the money laundering. It's the people who buy an NFT, then rebid on their own NFT with different wallets and continue to drive the price higher, creating this hype bubble around this project, this NFT or whatever. And then,
well, there's a tremendous amount of that. And there's also a lot of, I think the CTO of OpenSea was buying NFTs or buying part of the collections before they listed them on their homepage and stuff like that. So again, a lot of dubious activity that's unsustainable. But the dynamic of an NFT, I just wanted to point out, it's just there's not a liquid market. So as soon as the dynamic changes on this hype and it starts getting sold out, you see the prices drop out. And there's a huge difference between a lot of this like high flying momentum NFT craze and then real super scarce art where there are actually kind of deep markets and a vast set of long collectors. So maybe that changes over time with the digital space. But when you are saying I'm in crypto, but I'm also in NFTs and you're kind of playing that trading game, just know that it's very, very different. And the current dynamics are very liquid and that value evaporates because it actually was only there on paper in the first place.
Yeah, at the end of this year, Christian, we got to circle back to this. We have to have like best memes of the year or something, because, or maybe you guys will on the live stream, but some of the best memes come from the NFT heists where they right click and they save image as. They're like, yes, that's some of the best stuff out there. But I have a couple comments, unless Q has
share that.
Unless Q has something else, I wanted to just remind the viewers of something before we go. So I don't know. Do we have anything else to wrap up?
Nope. The mic is yours, Ansel.
Okay, so I say that every week we are at this time, 3 p.m. Tuesdays on the Bitcoin Magazine channel. Next week, we actually have to roll to Thursday. So I will be out of town, and we're going to roll to Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. That's the 7th. I believe. And then we'll be back the week after that on Tuesday at 3 p.m. With Joe Carlaseri. And what I want to dive in with Joe on the next more when he comes on, is trying to form some new narratives for Bitcoin, because everything seems to have been killed in the last month or so. You know, the inflation narrative, the stock to flow narrative, all of these other things. And Bitcoin needs to have some, new bottom up narratives that come out. And what does Joe think those are going to be? And maybe, we can hash out some ideas on the show. So that's all I have for admin notes.
Yep,
What else you
little
got, Christian?
housekeeping. It never
Yep.
hurt nobody. Get
Yep.
excited for Joe Carlosari in 2 weeks. And don't miss us next Tuesday. We'll be on next Thursday. Also, another bit of housekeeping. If you like the podcast and you watch this on YouTube, go subscribe to Fedwatch on our podcast feed. Catch us there. All these shows are posted there as well. And Ansel sometimes does shows without me. And, those are very dense and a lot of info and that stuff. So a lot to keep up with. It's an ever-changing world. Bitcoiners have never needed this show more, so make sure to subscribe, and we're going to keep it coming for another 100 episodes at least, if not more. We're just going to keep it rolling, y'all. Peace. Nice shirt, Q. Where could I get it, by the way?
So that perfect segue. This and so I started a new job this week, guys. I'm really, really excited. I called a couple ex-girlfriends and actually told them I am now a male model. You fucked up. So I am now a male model for none other than, you guessed it, Bitcoin Magazine. So this is our whale shirt, and you can get it exclusively at the Bitcoin Magazine store and use our promo code BMLive. Yeah, there you go. Even Chris is rocking it. I had another one on yesterday, the Don't Feed the Whale shirt. So I'll be rocking this out because I'm now starting my career as a male model, and I'm really excited about this. So use promo code BMLive, and of course, Ansel, you don't have to be tortured by this, but CK, absolutely stay on. The censorship resistant issue is now available by Ansel in the Bitcoin Magazine store. If you are not subscribed to the print mag, you're just doing it wrong. This is a behemoth. Shout out to our boy Young Gucci T with the Bitcoin war bonds on the back as well. But it is everyone's favorite moment whenever I show this. My dramatic readings. And I choose to read the redacted recap of the Miami Beach Bitcoin 2022. Two Dog Night, block number 730,448. We were somewhere around Barstow on the edge of the desert when I was put on hold. The friend that I had asked to watch my 4-year-old border collie pit mix was relaying the status to his partner on how beep, the aforementioned pup was with other dogs. I mean, she's pretty hit or miss, man. She got bit by another dog right before the shutdowns and hasn't had much success socializing as of late. Not wanting to get in the way of my friend's sudden decision to take home a 75-pound, 2-year-old Rottweiler, I feigned optimism and tried to paint the path of how this might actually be good for the dogs. I mean, she's going to have to learn how to be with other dogs again. Maybe we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. I was excited about the idea of her having a buddy to romp around the desert valley, chasing rabbits and running with the coyotes. But the pure military... I lost my spot. I'm done. You can finish the rest of this and check out all of our other articles at the print mag. Use promo code BMLive, get 10% off of your subscription. Joe Rogers, don't kill me.
I don't know if that is selling any mags, Q, but maybe you should share some of the pictures next time.
It's
We
true.
tried to
Great
do
minds
that once. It
think
doesn't
alike.
come out as good. I actually am better at explaining the pictures versus showing them. But I'll put this in front of my head for now. Oh, actually, this is my favorite picture for the mag. I'll show this one.
Oh, yeah. Happy Tuesday, y'all.
That's a wrap. Stay humble. Stack sats.
Roll the tape.
Bitcoin Amsterdam, y'all.
Peace.